G'day, folks. AOS Coach here, and we have a hot off the press Battlescroll 2024. It's I guess the official and first major update to Age of Sigmar for the current General's Handbook 2023-2024. And there's been a lot of changes, points, rules, a whole bunch of things have happened, and we are going to discuss it in length. Probably can't go into like the nth degree on every single rule because we'll be here till Christmas, but I'm joined by a gentleman who this episode has changed like 3 times. We went from talking about Blades of Khorne because Fabien did go to the top 8 of the LVO, and I was like, "Oh, let's revisit Khorne." And then just as this is kind of happening, the Battlescroll dropped, and I thought, look, how about we actually get into the weeds of the Battlescroll and see who are the winners and who are the losers, and do we think any lists are going to change, or what does it actually mean for the community? So I am joined by the Big Cheese Wargaming. I was going to call you the Big Cheese. You are the Big Cheese, but you are from King Cheese Wargaming, Fabien Barbusse. And as I mentioned, incredibly skilled player, does incredibly well with Sylvaneth, does incredibly well with Khorne, and you were in the top 8 and the finals of the LVO. So Fabien, say hello to the internet, and it's absolute pleasure having you here.
Well, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Really looking forward to this episode. Actually, I'm quite happy not to do Khorne because I feel like I don't want to go after Garrett, like Tomo. Like he is the king of Khorne, so it's better for me to just do like the Battlescroll.
well, you did top 8, and that's 400 odd players. So I think you can stand on the pantheon of the Blood Throne.
Yeah, like let's say temporarily.
All right. We won't step on anybody's toes, but what got you into Warhammer? Let's start off a little bit about you. Like, who are you, and what's your pedigree, and how did you even get into the hobby?
Well, I guess like a lot of people, I have played when I was a kid. I played 40k. I had a 40k start collecting with one of my friends. It was, I think, Battle for McRyan. So I don't even know, like it was like 4th edition, maybe something like that. But mostly we were quite young, so like played a bit, but not too much. And after that, stopped that for a lot of years until basically the pandemic. I think a bit before the pandemic, I was playing Blood Bowl on the computer. And started to play even more during the pandemic. But bored of just playing video games, I started to like buy some minis and play minis. So I played Blood Bowl on the tabletop for about a year and a half. And then with my best friend here in the US, we saw AOS 3rd edition. And because we are weak, we just said, okay, let's go. Let's buy more plastic and play. And after that, so we played for about a year, like just the 2 of us. He was playing Cruel Boys, I was playing Stormcast, just like basically the box. And then, so we had done a lot of Blood Bowl tournaments, but nothing for AOS. And then we were like, okay, let's just do a tournament. And we actually registered our first tournament was Nova 2022. So first tournament ever. We've never been to a RTT, directly to a GT, one of the big ones. And we had never played against anyone else than just the 2 of us. So it was quite fun. Right before that, I was like, I don't like Stormcast. I'm going to do Sylvaneth. So I bought and painted an army in like a month. And yeah, Nova was amazing. That, tournaments, the community is just like so great. So it was just like getting trapped. And after that, there was no coming back. So, and yeah, that was basically how it went.
That is the story I wasn't expecting, but I'm so glad I asked the question. That's really cool. Shout out to the Blood Bowl crew. I love Blood Bowl. Absolute. It's one of my games where if I just want a small pickup game or I just want something for fun, Blood Bowl is the place to be, especially the computer where it calculates all the okay, yeah. It does the calculations. I'm like, I just want to see what will I successfully block? Will I be able to blitz here? What's my Hail Mary percentage? Like, I don't want to do the maths. Like, just throw the ball. I love Blood Bowl. It's such a fun game.
To be fair, it taught me a lot about the game in general and playing on the tabletop. I had to learn the stats, so like that helps a lot for AOS, like knowing like the stats. And I mean, probably depends on your playstyle, but I'm a very like safe player, so it's good to know what are the percentages of success. And well, it helps.
It's all probability and it helps, but you're talking to someone who took destruction to the LVO. There is no consistency. You just run forward and hope to get more fours than your opponent. But we have the battle scroll. Very exciting because this has been long awaited. The community has been very vocal about the update, and I imagine what Games Workshop saw at the LVO. I imagine, like, traditionally this thing kind of drops. I actually might bring up the screen a little bit. But traditionally the battle scroll kind of happens about at the halfway point. So in the past, we've had 6-month General's Handbooks. This year, we're back to 12-month General's Handbook. General's Handbook comes out around June, July, approximately. So the community has been anticipating around December to January would be the battle scroll. And we are now recording at the start of February. So definitely been a while and a lot of anticipation, both will they nerf my army and are they going to break certain things? Or please help me, Games Workshop. My army isn't doing very well. I need some love. And I'll get you to explain a little bit more about the battle scroll in a second. But what I wanted to share and why I've got these particular stats up is that Games Workshop, as well as other people, so you can see Wohammer, you can see the Honest Wargamer, Goonhammer has some stats as well. People look at the stats very differently. The Honest Wargamer, for example, really only focuses on 2-day, 5-game, 2,000-point battles. Wohammer will break up the stats between, RTTs and GTs. And, basically you can see a holistic picture of the health of the game. Who's doing well, who's not doing well, who needs the lift, who might be too strong, too efficient, that needs some patch and clarification. But Fabien, what does the battle scroll mean for you, and why should I care as an Age of Sigmar player?
I mean, I think the battle scroll is just the way to keep the game interesting for people on the long run, especially when we have a year-long season like this. That's the opportunity to try to just improve the balance, right? Overall, the balance is not too bad, as we can see on the stats from Warhammer and Honest Wargamer. I guess a small parenthesis is that they calculate the stats slightly differently in the way the draws are counted. For Warhammer, a draw gives you like half a win, where like for the Honest Wargamer, it's only the win rate, which is why the values are a bit lower on the right side of the screen.
Yeah, and I think the point for the stats, right? Like, we can get into the weeds of the stats and why one person ranks higher than the other, but I think it gives us a good overall picture. There's consistency, right? You've got Kharadron Overlords and Ossiarch Bonereapers and certain factions who are just winning maybe more than they should have, and Wohammer highlights that in red. It gives you a good idea of where you're at.
Yeah, and the good thing is that also both Warhammer, Honest Wargamer, and Games Workshop, even if they have not shown it, they have more stats than just the win rates. They have the stats of who is winning events, the inclusion rates, the win rates of war scrolls, and all of that gives you a global picture of like the armies that are performing well, but also the subfaction and the war scrolls, and that's what is used to do the update, the battle scroll.
Yeah, if you want to know more about like the methodology, check out the MetaWatch article. There's a video embedded by Matt Rose, who is, I guess, the head of this particular game, and he talks about the stats. He talks about, Khorne, for example, might have a really high win percentage, and maybe it's crazy high. But when you drill into the data, you might realize that it's actually the Reapers of Vengeance subfaction that is the one that's doing really high. So maybe let's rein in that subfaction. Let's not nerf the entire faction. And you see that with, for example, in Seraphon, where you've got your Coalesce versus your Starborn. Some are doing really well, some are doing not. But there's a really interesting analytic around like which units are included, who's doing well, and you're going to start to see this kind of manifest in the battle scroll and the tweaks. So, yeah. Anything else you'd add to this?
No, I guess again, being a 1-year season, this halfway, like this winter Battlescroll was expected to be a very big one, and well, I guess we will see if that matches the expectations or not.
Yeah, I think there are some people with that you're absolutely right. You know, some people are like, I need a big band-aid, and it's interesting, right? Because you've also had the Dawnbringer series that have happened as well, which have created patches, both positive and negative patches. You see the likes of Kharadron Overlords, they got themselves a new sub-faction, which was really popular for a while. Suns was another one. Suns actually, if you remove that particular sub-faction, I'd love to see the win percentage. But then you've got others where it's like Sylvaneth, for example, that has done nothing to them. Sure, they've gotten a new model, but the Army of Renowned has done nothing. But Balthanos might have actually increased Balthanos is very popular, so he might have lifted the Sylvaneth win percentage. Again, all the analytics and stats that kind of come into the changes here. And what I thought was really fascinating, if you haven't looked at the battle scroll, and by the way, it is on Warhammer Community. You can look at it for yourself if you want to print it off and look at all these stats as well, is that most of the god models, and Fabien corrected me as we were chatting before, and I'm like, oh, all the god models have changed. He goes, actually, Kragnos hasn't had change. I'm like, okay, well played. But Archaon, Alariel, Nagash, and Morathi all saw points discounts, some more aggressive than others. What's your take on the god tier models in the current edition, and why do you think maybe they got a point decrease?
I mean, to start with Kragnos, I guess it's just the traditional curse of the battle scroll and destruction being forgotten, so not really a surprise there. For the god models, I think it probably shows that they were struggling, all of them, and that the current meta is not centered around these guys anymore. Start of the edition, there were the kings. They were reigning like for a very long time. We had Archaon being quite good. Morathi has been definitely dominating the start of the edition. But I think the issue now is, I mean, you have a lot of explanations, right? But mostly they are very expensive and they don't score battle tactics very well. They don't hold objectives. And the game now is not about killing. It's about scoring your 5 points every turn. And these guys probably don't really help for that. So that will be my explanation of why, like as a general idea, like there are a bit more details of like each of them. Like Ariel actually has been doing well for Sylvaneth, but that's a very specific build. But yeah, in general, I think it's just putting too many points in one model. It's just hard with the current like state of the game.
Yeah, agreed. By the way, Techless as well, another god tier model. Techless got a discount as well. So you're right. I think the god tiers, while they're awesome models, they definitely take up a lot of points. And when you look at some of the battle plans, like for example, retreat 2 and charge 2, have 3 models on different points of the board, surround and destroy, having 1/3 of your army tied up in one model can really make some of those battle tactics really hard if your faction doesn't have good battle tactics to, if you're relying too much on the general's handbook. So, and as you said, there's a lot of more we can go into each individual, but know that, yeah, maybe this might encourage people like Daughters of Cain players might bring back Morathi. She may have got the points adjustment. I always thought that they're a bit too hard on Morathi. Poor old Morathi.
Oh,
but
poor Morathi.
Thoughts and prayers for my Morathi. We have some General's Handbook rules first, and then we'll go into the factions. And Fabien, some absolutely fascinating ones. The first one I'll call out is the Wizard Finders of Antor battalion. Now, this is a battalion that even when I did my very first preview of the season, I thought this is a dumb battalion. I don't like it. Why do I need it? What's the value? Now, they've come around and completely changed it on screen. If you're watching this on screen, you can see the old rules compared to the new rules. And the new rules now allows you to get a 5+ spell ignore, both for spells and endless spells. What do we think?
I mean, it's important to know that it's in addition to the previous one that was the extra attacks. The issue with the other one, like the old one, is just that the extra attacks were quite situational. Like first you have to put all your attacks into the same unit, pretty much. You can only attack wizards to be more accurate. And there are a lot of matchups where it's not useful. While now having a 5-up spell ignore on your 2 hammers, for instance, is probably always good. You have spell damage, debuff damage that can affect them, and having 1 in 3 chance to just completely ignore that is great. And then you still have the little bonus that can be the extra attacks in the matchups where it's useful. If you go against Nagash, you'll be very happy that your hammer has +1 attack. So yeah, I think that we're going to see this battalion a lot more than before. And only for armies that do not care about drops, because that still increases your drop count by at least 2, but usually 3. But yeah, I think that's a good one and probably a good change.
It's a great change because you're right. And this was always my gripe on this particular battalion, was that the benefits of +1 attack and all of the things that, kind of come about, it was very specific and limited to what you could put in the battalion. And then you would have to go hunt that wizard. And if I'm the opponent, I'm just going to potentially try to avoid what goes in. I'm going to completely avoid those units if I'm really worried about the damage output from those hunters. But now you're getting a passive benefit of the spell ignore in addition to the extra attacks. So they didn't lose anything; they only gained. So big win here. My question though to you is: are you going to include this into your lists, or is something still like Battle Regiment and Warlord or Antorian Acolytes still a more beneficial battalion to you?
Again, I think it depends on the armies. The armies that want to be absolutely 1-drop, no. But I've already written a couple of lists that include that. Big War, I think, would be very happy to have that. So the big block of Brutes and Gorgrunters have a spell ignore, and sometime +1 attack. +1 attack on Gorgrunters is like amazing. I've written an FEC list that has that as well, to protect the horrors and the beast flayers. So definitely I'm going to include it when I can. The issue is that you need to have a champion. So for instance, my Khorne list, I have double Warlord, so I just can't. I would be happy to have it, but my 6 heroes are already used, so that's the issue.
Yeah. It's obviously very faction dependent. If you don't have a lot of wizards, then you clearly are, you don't get any benefit from the Antorian Locust Battalion or Antorian Acolytes Battalion. There's definitely some benefits, but like from a lot of my lists, I'm still keeping Antorian Acolytes and Warlord or Battle Regiment, double Battle Regiment. But it feels like there's now a legitimate choice here. It's definitely a bit closer to a pros and cons type choice. The second one is we have a new battle tactic, completely new, brand new, not replacing anything, brand new. It's called Drain Their Power. You complete the battle tactic at the end of your turn if a friendly hero with a Nullstone adornment is contesting an objective that was controlled by your opponent at the start of your turn. What are your thoughts?
That's great. So again, in the MetaWatch article, we heard the lead developer speak a lot about the issue that they had, that there was not enough benefits not to bring a wizard. Before this Battlescroll, you had an easy battle tactic with magical dominance. If you were bringing a wizard, you had nothing if you were not. So even armies like Khorne, myself included, were bringing wizards because, it was just the best option. So that gives an alternative. Important to note, though, that this is not a turn 1 battle tactic, unlike magical dominance. And it can be a bit difficult depending on your army if you don't have a fast hero. The good thing is you don't need to control the objective, you need to contest it with your hero that has the Nullstone adornment. So definitely a good option for mid-game and late game. Gives a good alternative to bringing wizards. So yeah, definitely a good one to add.
But what if somebody? What if I'm a 1-drop and I give my opponent first turn? They move up onto the objective. Is this now not a turn 1 battle tactic?
Let's just say that it's situational, right? You cannot count on it, and especially the issue was for a lot of armies when you're given top of 1.
Bingo. That's the key point, right? If you're low drops and you can give away the first turn, and your faction doesn't require going, putting up your buffs or your spells up in the very first turn. Yes, absolutely. But you got to build around it. But to your point, magical dominance, regardless if I go first, you go first, I don't get the choice, I don't care. It's always one that I could score. So, really good call. And it's good. It's overall, it's free. It's use it if you don't use it if you're going to use it. Don't if you don't. If you're someone who was taking what's it called, Arcane Tome, because you needed that turn 1 tactic, this might help you. But again, would I sacrifice Arcane Tome in my list, even if it's versus taking this battle tactic? I'm not sure. I don't. Currently, I would still rather the Arcane Tome because I want to be able to play around with Primal Magic dice
and have a Mythic Shield, which is one of the best spells of the game.
Correct. Like I'm even thinking about like I just played Suns at LVO. I had to take my Arcane Tome, so otherwise I'd have no magic and I'd have to be using my heroic action to get access to dispelling. Would I sacrifice all of that for this?
If you don't take the Arcane Tome, you can then take a Nullstone Adornment that gives you an Unbind. And if you take the one that gives you an Unbind, as long as you succeed, you get more Unbind. So that can be also a good opportunity. But I think it's more like for armies that really were not before bringing any wizard, didn't have any good choice of allies, and maybe had better options or like other artifacts that they wanted more than the Arcane Tome. Now it's a good alternative for them.
Yeah, agreed. What I'm trying to point out here, and I think we both agree, is it's nice, it's there, it's only a boost. If you're going to use it, amazing. Is it going to change the game, and would I particularly change my list archetype and drop the Arcane Tome for this particular battle tactic? Probably not. For the key reasons you said, is it's not a guaranteed turn 1 versus what magical dominance can bring to me.
Yep.
But it's good to have it. It's good to have it. The other one is there is a change to the battle plan. It's only a minor change, unless I'm missing something completely, where basically instead of it saying score 1 victory point, this is probably Power Flux, by the way. With Power Flux, it would have a score 1 victory point if the enemy wizard unit was destroyed in that battle round. They've kind of just clarified the timing, really. It says score 1 wizard hero, which is the other point. It's a wizard hero, not wizard. Unit that was destroyed in the battle round. Sorry, what were you going to say?
So what it changes is the timing. And actually that happened to me at LVO. So LVO round 1 was Power Flux. And with the old ruling, you would only score the points if the wizard had been dead before you score the points of your turn. And game 1, I go against Caven, high drops, so they go first. They score their points. And then in my turn, Phaedra, so my little wizard, she proceeds to miscast and kill herself. But because my opponent had already scored the points, he did not get the bonus point. Now with the new rule, he will get the bonus point. So that's the difference, it's just the timing, depending if you're going top of the turn or bottom. Now it doesn't matter, as long as one wizard has been killed during the round, you will get that bonus point.
There's a couple of other things. First off, it can work against you and for you. If your wizard dies and the person's already scored, then you're not giving away the bonus. But also, it's now clarified to be wizard hero, not necessarily just wizard. So any of those wizard units are a little bit safer now, or not giving away extra points. There's other changes, which is just your endless spells. So Pendulum, Aether Void Pendulum went up 10 points. Emerald Lifeswarm went down 10 points. Geminids went up 10 points. Palisade went down 10 points. Quicksilver Swords went down 10. Soul Snare Shackles went down 10. And Burning Head went down 10. Any of these going to make a big difference to you? Now, obviously, if my list was like 2,000 points on the dot. Clearly, that it has got to change. But assuming I've got a bunch of points up my sleeve, any good or bad changes?
It's just 10 points, and there is no rules changes, so no.
If you were taking Geminids and you've got the spare 10 points, amazing. You can just suck that up and maybe not score the triumph. If the 10 points makes you go over your list, you're going to have to work out where you get those points efficiencies if your units haven't dropped. So do any of those endless spells now entice you to go pick them up now that like Burning Head's worth 20 points?
I don't think there is any that's just for this. I think it's more a combination of like maybe the Live Swarm might be back in some builds like Night Hunt, but it's more because Night Hunt will probably see more play rather than just the 10 points of the Live Swarm.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure, like, since they changed the rule and it only works once, I don't think any of these will make a big difference.
No. In fact, I would rather get a triumph over a Burning Head. Like I'd rather just not take Burning Head. Or Soul Snare Shackles is not a bad little endless spell. But if you're talking to me about a reroll charge, a +1 to wound, or ignore battle shock, I would rather be in the hunt for that than an endless spell that I may or may not be able to cast.
Especially this season, I think that's a big issue for the endless spells, is that primal dice make them so easy to be removed. I think we might see more of them once we move to the next season, but right now it's just like, even if you roll poorly on your dispel, well, just add a primal dice and they're gone.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Overall, interesting match play rules. Anything you'd want to say before we move into chaos?
No, I think we can proceed to the factions.
All right, let's get to chaos. First one is we have Beast of Chaos and a couple of rule changes. You've had your Gors and your Zangors have had a quality of life change where the Hacking Blade and the Paired Hacking Blade and the pair of Savage Blades and the Great Blade. So basically all of those weapons have gone to a 2-inch range. In addition, the Bestigors have gone down 20 points to be now 180 points. What do we think?
Zangors changing is nice. We might see a bit more of them. Gors doesn't really change anything. They are like not that fighty. Bestigors, I think they are getting close to the point where we'll see a few of them. But again, the War Scroll itself is not as appealing as others. So like small quality of life improvements, but nothing major here.
No, because currently the build, or at least the popular build, the people putting all of their eggs into the Bulgor basket, right, have a nice little ambushing unit of 9 Bulgor, which takes up almost half of an army's points when you add the Doom Bull potentially as well. I mean, Bestigors are nice, don't get me wrong. The extra range is quality of life. It means that you might get all of your attacks in, or it might allow you to double reinforce or single reinforce some of these units. But you're going to get extra attacks in, which is always nice.
Yeah, I think the biggest change here will be the Zangors, because they were seen sometimes, and like now with 2 inches you can have like bigger blocks. But yeah, nothing major for Bok.
No, I mean you saw Gore as well, but like you're not building around maximum damage from a Gore. But yes, your Zangors you were seeing come into lists, and the Bestigors are nice if you were running them. But you're probably not going to see people jump straight into Bestigor builds off the back of this particular adjustment.
Yep.
So, cool. Blades of Khorne. Big change, massive change, one of the biggest. So first off, you have a bunch of cheaty things. In the past, Fabien talked about turn 1 for Khorne has always been really tough, and magical dominance would be something that Khorne players would tap into, using Fedra, using Be'lakor as an ally, and you cheated a little bit. Now, what's happened? What's happened, Fabien? I'm going to let you share.
So that's a great change, but that's going to hurt. They have updated the rule Hatred of Sorcery, which is the rule that gave Khorne units the 5 of spell ignore, and when you ignore the spell, you get a blood type point. To that, they have a new line that says that each time a friendly unit casts a spell, you must roll a die, and on a 5-up, that spell is automatically unbound. So you have 1 in 3 chances for your spells not to go off. So in case of magical dominance, that's a very high percentage to just fail your battle tactic. And I think that is a rule that's like annoying enough to remove the incentive of bringing wizards in Khorne, unless they have another purpose. Like maybe Battlescroll will still be played, but that will be for his like unique ability and not just for the casting. And that has a bigger impact than what people might think just looking at it. They're like, oh, well, it's fine. You got another battle tactics in exchange. But the issue is that that new battle tactic, again, is not a turn 1 battle tactic. And the only turn 1 battle tactic that you have reliably is Surround and Destroy. But I've done the experience earlier today that it's not always good to do turn 1 because that means that you're sending your units in directions that you don't want, especially when it's like corner deployment. You have to send one like opposite side with like furies, and like 3 units are basically very far from the fight happening. And then I got doubled 1 into 2, and because my units were out of the way, I just lost the game instantly. So I was like, maybe on battle plans like this, I have to actually just give up turn 1 battle tactic. So that's a big change. It's gonna, I mean, 2 points. Like, is 2 points gonna lose you all your games? No, but it's gonna have an impact.
So can I ask you then? This particular change is a big change because, you know, it disincentivizes you taking the wizards. As I mentioned, Be'lakor, Thedra are the 2 of the most popular ones. Couple of questions. Would you risk magical dominance with a 1 in 3 chance that you will fail it?
That's a good question. So, no. Maybe some would. Again, I come from Blood Brawl. I'm like used to play like probability and like safe and everything, so I would not risk it. The reason for that is that magical dominance was already a risk. If you had no primal dice, rolling a 5 is the equivalent of 2-up. You already had 13% chance to fail. Now to that, you will add another 33% chance to fail, even if your spell goes off. And it also just reduces the value for your wizard for the rest of the game as well. Because every spell during the game will have like a third of chance not to be efficient. So I think that's just enough for you not to bring a wizard. If you still bring one, because again, Be'lakor, for instance, then can you risk it? If you have nothing better, sure. I mean, if it's either that or scoring 0, well, I mean, of course I will risk it. But in general, and for I think most lists, that just means that there is no more wizard in Khorne, and you just don't have the question.
It's an interesting question. I don't think we have the answers just yet, but it's definitely one where it's you revisit your list to say, is it worth it? And obviously, you know, Thedra brings some friends, so it's extra blood tie. You know, it is a 66% chance you will pass, but it's that risk of basically you drop your battle tactic on a 1 in 3 chance. And then, you know, what's the value that this particular unit brings to the table? Question marks to you and how you play it. But it's definitely one where you're going to sit back and go, is this still the right choice in my list? And we will all, with our risk tolerance, decide if it's worth the risk or not worth the risk.
Yeah. And also worth noting, I mean, we'll see it for Slave to Darkness, but Thedra also went up in points. I apologize, but
yeah, well, thanks, Slave to Darkness. I'm sure they appreciate that. The other change is the Claws of Karanak, a unit that was being brought in very, very popularly. It went up 20 points. Does that change anything to you in regards to Claws of Karanak? Is it still a good unit at 120, or is that now a little bit too expensive for you?
I think it's still good because there is a high value in pre-game move in Khorne, where you want to send, like in quite a lot of matchup, just a unit to block the opponent in their territory with Murderlust. Now the issue is just that's a lot more points than Blood Reavers. So if you have the points, yes, but I feel like most lists are tight. And in my list, for instance, I had to drop them. So still list dependent, but that's a big increase.
You might have lost 180 points now with Fedra dropping out of your list. So maybe you've got the 20 points to spend.
Yeah, but with Khorne, you want a maximum number of units. That's the thing.
I'm only just putting salt into the wound. But look, yeah.
So I guess to conclude on Khorne, I think it impacts the army a bit more than some people would say when they say like, "Oh, they are fine. They got like no nerf at all." No, that's a decent nerf. But Khorne is still probably one of the best army in the game. Like, they were good. They got nerfed. Other top armies also got nerfed, and they are still one of the best army in the game.
I don't think this is going to change too much the competitive level of Khorne. It will make your wins a little harder. Obviously, you mentioned turn 1, and make you revisit your lists. But the internal balance of Khorne is still very good. As you can see here, there's no points discounts, no points increases other than the clause of Karanak. It's just around that turn 1 battle tactic you're going to have to rethink about what you do and maybe how your game plan, if you do surround and destroy or intimidate the invaders or whatever it is, you're going to have to really think about your new turn sequence as opposed to magical dom turn 1, or if it's worth the risk. Maybe it still is, and you just hope to roll ones. All right. Next up, we have the Disciples of Tzeentch, a fascinating one because they're still very competitive. We just don't see them as often as you probably would normally see them on the table. What have we got? So we've got the Zangor change, so exactly the same as Beasts of Chaos. Zangors have had an increase into their range. There has been I guess, an adjustment around the pitch battle profile of the description of the horrors of Tzeentch, mostly just basically how you have to work if you want pinks to be battle line. If you include blues or brims, they clearly are not battle line. And then there's some points adjustments with your Change Caster, your Ogor Thermitage, the Jade Obelisk, and the Magister of Tzeentch, all going down 10 points each. Is this enough to bring more people to pick up Tzeentch? Is there anything that has heavily impacted? I think these are just quality of life things. I don't think these are huge changes, and I don't think Tzeentch needed huge changes. But Fabien, what are you feeling?
Yeah, Tzeentch has had very good results, but only by a few players. Like, it's an army that I guess does not really attract many players. It has a very specific playstyle, especially if you lean into like all the pinks. Like, you need to have a very good back to move all these models. So these changes will probably not really change the popularity of the army, but like a few of them are good. The point change on the heroes really don't change anything. That's like very minimal. The Zangors can now be a good hammer in Tzeentch because you have very easy access to Hoarfrost, or at least you can cast it quite reliably. And with 2-inch range, that's a lot of attacks, so that can be quite good. And the other one is, I don't know if it's enough, but the Jade Obelisk, I believe that's the Warcry unit.
Yes, yeah, it is.
And now a reinforced unit of them could be quite good. They have 4-up Ethereal save. If you put a 5-up ward on top of it on them, that's like a decent hammer for quite cheap. So that could be something that we see a bit more. But overall, no big change.
No, their quality of life changes at best. It might get you another endless spell if you're taking all 4 of these. It might get you another endless spell, or it might help you with the triumph, or might let you upgrade a particular unit. But yes, I think the Zangor is going to be the big boost here. Not that Tzeentch needed a big boost. Their win rate was still very good, just that they weren't as popular as some of the other factions. Next up is our Hedonites of Slaanesh. So there were no rule changes for Slaanesh, but you did see points discounts across the board for Dexessa and Sinessa, the two, I guess, minor greater demons. You've got your Keeper of Secrets and Shalaxi all going down points. The Mask went down points. Demonettes went down 10 points. Your Hellstriders with Claw Spears went down. Mostly went down 10s, except for the Keeper of Secrets and Shalaxi, who both went down 20 points. So the these units aren't very popular. You know, certainly we had a time that was all about pretenders, all about like Blitzbarbs and Seekers and Glutos maybe, but is this enough to change the play style of Slaanesh and bring some of those Keepers of Secrets back?
I mean, as you said, the issue is that these point drops, I mean, first, they are small and they are on units that were not really played, so that will not really change much. The Mask, I think, was already good, so that's a nice one. Keeper of Secret, we've seen a few, so that's going to, again, maybe save you 20, 30 points, which is, I mean, maybe if your list was close and you were like struggling to include a better unit, that might help you to upgrade one unit or get a Triumph. So, I mean, it's not bad, but that will not be game changer. Demonettes, I don't know anyone who was running a lot of them, so that probably doesn't change anything. If there was a madman or mad lady doing it, that could be good for them, but nah.
Yeah, Demonettes are a unit that have just struggled to gain popularity. Like you don't really see them on the table, and I think it's that either their War Scroll doesn't justify their points, or their points need to go down to like 90 or something, because you don't see them, and it's hard to justify their inclusion when you've got other good choices.
Yeah, I think they might start to see a bit more play, but just as MSU for battle line requirements, because now they're starting to get quite cheap, but that's still not enough. Like,
I think for me, Dexessa or Sinessa, they're probably getting close to a points value where I might include them. I do like both of them because they give you some of the greater demon powers, but at a fair price, and they do have some really interesting rules. So that's probably the changes for me that I kind of like. But again, 10-point discount is not going to make me drop something in my list to go rush out and get a Dexessa.
Yeah, again, that would be the trend for this Battlescroll. They have been very conservative on the changes. There are a few exceptions, but most of the time it was like very small. I mean, you see that you're around like 5%, 10 max. Some units could probably have had a bit more.
Yeah. Minor adjustments here. Slaanesh, I'm sorry, there's nothing here that's going to change. Sorry. You got your Maggotkin of Nurgle. Now, this is another big change. At first, I'm like, oh, -1 to hit. That's not a bad little bubble for -1 to hit. This is specifically, by the way, for the Sloppity Bilepiper. If you choose the song, "My Love Is a Ripe, Ripe Fart." Now, -1 to hit bubble is very nice, but when you look at what it's sacrificed, that's the whole reason people took the Sloppity Bilepiper. So you no longer can stop people from piling in. That shenanigans is gone.
Yeah. I think it's a good change because it was quite a negative play experience for a lot of melee armies. And also the rules were not very clear. I guess I have a fun anecdote about LVO for this one. That's also linked to another change that I don't think you're going to see because it's more like a little change on some like core rules. Game 3 at LVO, I'm playing against Tom Ling from Tough Crowd. And when we are discussing the armies, he tells me that the Bilepiper, it stops your pile-in. So, when you're within 3, you cannot get closer. But I'm like, okay, but if you start outside of 3, you can go. And he was like, no, as long as you get at 3, then you cannot pile in closer, so you're blocked. So now, okay, that's not like how I've seen it played, but like, I trust you. You're the expert. And then there is another question in my list about the chain activations. So in my list, I have the chain activation with the Bloodmaster and the Bloodletters, but you have the same chain activations in a lot of cases across a lot of armies. And the rules were, before the change, that's why I said like it has an impact for the Battlescroll, you didn't need to be eligible to fight to still be like picked to fight. So even if you had run, retreated, or just be in the open, as long as the first unit was fighting, the second one could like pile in and attack. So I tell him that. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. So he wants to go and ask Tomo. So we go. I was like, I know it's going to work because Tomo told me. But so we go, we see Tomo. He's like, yeah, that's how it works. We're like, okay. And when I'm there, I'm like, oh, by the way, how do you rule the pile-in for the Bilepiper? And he was like, no, actually, like I was right. So I was like, it was the fun thing where we went to see the TO, and he ended up being double ruling against Tom and Tom Ling. And after that, he was like upset against himself. He was like, oh, what am I doing? And he lost the focus for the game. But that was just like a fun anecdote.
But you know what? Like you know this at tournaments, it can be hard. You confuse yourself. You're mentally drained. There's so much going on. Like sometimes you're just like.
And it was game 3 of day 1, and it's just like with that going on, he was like he lost the focus for the game, and unfortunately, that did cost him the game. But that still shows you that rule was not very well written, because he's a top player in the US, and he has been playing this army for months, and even then, he was not playing it correctly. So it's good that it's gone.
It was a if you hear a lot of people talk about this NPE, you know, a non-player experience or negative player experience. When you tell somebody that they can't pile in and you have been tagged by, let's say, a beast of chaos or a beast of Nurgle, it's pinned a unit of 10 and you've just pinned them on the side and you've only got range 1 or range 2 and you can only do 1 or 2 attacks, you're stuck, and people did not like that. So as a Nurgle player, I would be upset that I've lost this rule because it was a good rule.
Oh yeah.
As everybody else, it's a better play experience, and it's not a bad holistic change overall.
To be fair, if it had been no piling at all, at least it would have been easy to play. The issue is that you were allowed to pile in, just not to get any closer. So game 5 was also against Nurgle, and at some point we lost a good 20 minutes for me to do all my pilings with my blood letters, where I had to measure the exact distance and rotate, and in the end just to like deny him one victory point. Like it was just very annoying. That was the way to play, but like so annoying. So it's good that it's gone, and -1 hit is still good, and that's still like quite strong, especially on an army that's already quite tanky. It will just remove a lot of the again, the NPE, especially when you are playing the Glotkin list, where in your own turn you will have a unit charging you and staying outside of outside of 2 within 3, so you could not pile in and not do anything in your own turn.
Yeah, nothing frustrates a player more than being able to be told not what to do. Like, just you can't do your thing. Which is what pisses people off with Battlescroll. Just being told, no, you cannot do your thing. There's some other changes. You got points adjustments. So Gut Rot Spume went down 20. Harbinger Decay went down 20. Lord of Plagues went down 20. Rotbringer Sorcerer Coven, the Rot Coven, went down 10. Rotmire Creed went down 10. And then Morbidix Twiceborn went up 10 points. So some wholesale changes. The Rotbringer Coven have probably been popular. So you could... That's probably a nice little thing. Rotmire Creed, very popular if you can get your hands on them. So probably a nice discount there. The others are okay, I guess, 20 points. But what are you thinking on the points discounts?
Rotmire Creed, definitely surprising. That's a good unit. So I think we're going to see them even more now.
If you can get them.
Yeah, if you can get them. If you can like proxy, find some alternatives. Like they are very good. The Arbinger. Do you say Arbinger or Arbinger? Arbinger, right?
Don't ask me about pronunciation.
So sorry. The Harbinger of Decay. That's a great model. It was very expensive. I don't know if it's enough, but that's definitely going in the right direction. And if people just want to play it because they love the model, that's good. The rest is like not much. Again, if you change 10 points on a 300-point unit, it's not going to change much. But no. Rotmire Creed is definitely a good one.
And I was also the Rotbringer Coven is another good one as well. If you're playing that particular style.
Yeah, it's just 10 points out of 300. It doesn't change too much. To be fair, I was expecting the Plague Bearers to go up. They are quite cheap right now and super effective in terms of wounds. But because they nerfed the no piling, I think it probably makes sense for them to stay where they are. Otherwise, it would be too much of a nerf. So
yeah, the style that Games Workshop does is they'll make a change, they'll measure it, and then they'll change it again. So if it still is a problem, then they might revisit something else. They don't like doing too many changes too soon. I think the methodology, if you hear Matt talk about them, is kind of the approach.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, a nerf for Nurgle, who was definitely playing and abusing the no pile-in. Like every game I've played against Nurgle was like centered around that. So I think it will require time and play testing to tell if it's too much of a nerf and the army needs more buffs to compensate, or if it's actually okay and there are other ways to play Nurgle.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now it's definitely a big hit, probably the biggest in the Battlescroll.
I think it's just going to promote things like the Glotkin style, where you're just going in for the counter charge more and less of that shenanigans. Speaking of shenanigans, Skaven, boy oh boy, have you got some shenanigans. I'm going to do the first one really quickly because it's an easy one. Plague Monks have gone back to 20. So I believe they used to be 20 models in a unit, and you could obviously reinforce them to 40 and 60 at their battle line. They went down to 10. They're back to 20. So that's not a bad thing. I guess it depends on if you were someone who was just going for minimum size units or if you are liking the Horde style. And their points obviously went up to appropriately account for the fact that they're now a unit of 20. The other change is that there is a tweak to the battle tactic Flee. So you complete this battle tactic at the end of the turn if 2 or more friendly Skaven units retreated this turn. I like that change. I think that's a good update to the battle tactic.
Definitely make it easier. I mean, we're going to see after that in the point adjustment that there is a particular build that got nerfed, which was the most competitive one. So in exchange, making the battle tactic a bit easier it's a good change.
It's less restrictive. You used to have a Skaven battle line and a Skaven hero retreat. Now it's just 2. So you could do both. Or if you tied up with 2 generic units, you could just flee them both. And it's just a better change.
Yeah, it's good. Like clan rats can retreat and charge, and your heroes can retreat instead of fighting. That's how you were doing it usually, one of each. Now you have more options. Just a good change.
Yeah, good change. Any thoughts on the Plague Monks going to 20s? I think it just shows you that you can't do minimum units, flood up the board.
I don't know if it's going to change the way Skaven play. I think it's just that if there are some Plague Monks enjoyers who just wanted like a big horde, now they can do it.
Yeah.
But it will not be like a huge change.
I think
you're still limited by.
I think
I lost you for a second.
I
don't know what you said.
Sorry, yeah, it's okay. I think we froze up. All I was going to say was I think it does make an interesting thing that you now need to worry about battle shock. I think you saw lots of Plague Monks as minimum size units, and you might take multiple units of them, but you would just go in, try to do damage. Now you've got to babysit them because battle shock is a real thing for you. But it does allow you to go to a unit of 40 if you want.
Yeah, and I guess if you play Plague Monks, you might as well play the Plague Furnace that gives you the Battle Shock immunity. So that might go in that. I mean, they said again in the video that they want to promote the Clan Pestilence playstyle. So that's a good alternative to Clan Rats if you want to go full Pestilence.
Yeah. If you're gonna do it, you now need to really protect them, and the Furnace is a good example of how you might do that. Lots of points discounts, but also some increases. We saw this playstyle come up at the World Championships. It's been reinforced afterwards. So you have seen the Grey Seer on Screaming Bell go up 20. You've seen Plague Censer Bearers go up 10. You've seen Plague Monks go up 90, but their unit has now doubled in size. In its place, you've seen discounts for the Grey Seer going down 10, Molster Molder going down 10, Plague Claw going down 10, Thankful going down 30. The various Vermin Lords have gone down 10 or 20 points, depending on what the build is. Warp Lightning Cannon down 10, Rat Ogres down 10, Warlock Engineer gone down 10. So a lot of discounts for Skaven, as well as a good change to the battle tactic. I think to your point, it's kind of disincentivizing that one particular style we saw, you know, with a double or triple.
Triple Bell and double reinforced Plague Bearers now went up 100 points. So that's a lot. And hopefully that will be seen a bit less, especially with another change that I guess we forgot to highlight in the first page, is the change on the bodyguards. And bodyguard roles are now considered as ward roles, which means that any tech you have that turns off wards also turns off bodyguards. And the whole mechanic of the Screaming Bell lists was to put your bells in the front, you have your bodyguards behind, so you're actually tanking with your hero, and you play with your bodyguards to leave them alive with like 1 or 2 wounds, and then in your turn, you turn that into a Vermin Lord. So you were turning a 220-point unit into almost 400-point unit. Now there is a bit more counterplay to that for armies that have access to reducing ward rolls or just turning them off. So that might also like make it less interesting, or we will see probably less of them.
It's made it a little bit harder. It does, especially, or maybe it encourages you, and it kind of going to maybe segue nicely into Slaves to Darkness, given that the Demon Prince has gotten a nice little boost here. And one of the great things, like the Nurgle one, is being able to shut off wards. It might incentivize that playstyle, to your point, and give you a much stronger counter, because chewing through that many wounds, being able to allocate them, summoning a bunch of free Vermin Lords, became, you know, it's essentially adding like 1,000 points to your army. So it does make it hard to defeat. But
I know that, like, earlier in the edition, the tech to turn off ward was less interesting because there were a bit less armies that had wards. Recently, there were more and more, so that tech was even more important. And now that it also turns off bodyguards, it's like, it's amazing. If you have it in your army, now you have to bring it, like, no question asked.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, more and more wards are coming in. And to your point, being able to shut off bodyguard and ward is only a nice thing, because there are a lot more bodyguard rules now. Speaking of slaves, as I already mentioned, the Slave's Demon Prince has now improved its attack characteristics. So the Demonic Axe and Hellforged Sword is now 7 attacks, while the Malefic Talons is now 12 attacks. So do we like? I mean, obviously this is an increase, right? There's only wins here. There's no gains, so we clearly like it. Do we see more value adding a Demon Prince to our Slaves to Darkness, or even our allied lists?
Yes. Probably more in Slaves to Darkness than as an ally. Because I think you probably want to, like, if you play, for instance, in Kabbalist, you're giving a flaming weapon. Now flaming a weapon with these new profiles is like very interesting. And you also want to have, as we discussed, the Mark of Nurgle. So probably not as an ally, but in Slaves to Darkness, definitely just being able to turn off that ward. It's quite fast with the wings. And if you can also, again, if you're playing it in Kabbalist and make it like a wizard, it's just like a pretty decent now. It will, like, it's still a 150 points hero. It will not one-shot Archaon, but the added damage can make the difference. And now just the anti-ward tech has just jumped in value like 1,000 times.
Yeah, when you look at a 150-point hero that you could make fly, so it goes 12, add the fact it's got these extra attacks, plus the Nurgle mark, this is a nice little, like, missile. It's just like, go hunt down what you want to kill, shut off its ward, and then put in your Varangard, put in your Knights, put in whatever your hitty thing is, and you can really delete some things. And for 150 points, it's very fair value.
Yeah, it's not a big investment for what you get out of it. So definitely a very nice upgrade for that model. That is like also a very nice model. Like,
yeah, it never really saw a lot of play. I'd love to see maybe the other marks get a bit of more of a boost. I think the Nurgle one is a clear standout, but overall, good change for the Demon Prince. The other changes, as you already kind of mentioned in Khorne, Fedra, everyone's favorite ally, is gone up 20 points, and our Lord of the Ever-Chosen Archaon has gone up. Gone down 40 points. So Archaon's gone down 40. He's now at 820, and Fedra has gone up to 180 points. I think Fedra as a war scroll is still very valuable, but it's the hatred of sorcery that is going to impact you as a Khorne player. But what do you think about these particular changes?
I think the change of Fedra was not needed. I think since they made it hard to bring wizards in Khorne, it was probably enough. Now, Slave Darkness players are suffering from it. If they wanted to bring that combo, that was pretty nice. Now there is no real point of bringing her because there is another duo of wizard plus units from Underworld that's better. Like the only point for Fedra is that they were cheap. Now they are not cheap anymore, so I think they are just dead. Archaon, always a good change. Still think it's too expensive, but for people who just want to play it because it's one of the best models in the game, just great to save 40 points.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to take Archaon, you're going to take Archaon. If you weren't going to take him, 40-point discount isn't going to change that belief. You might get you the Triumph if you're running, again, Vanguard, Knights, Warriors around him. Overall, good change, but it's up to you. Maybe the season isn't right for him, but I'm sure someone's going to prove me wrong. So But to your point, Fedra getting a points adjustment in Slaves does just hurt Slaves a little bit. I do feel sorry for them because they're paying for the sins of Khorne.
Whoopsie.
You're paying for the sins of Khorne. But to be honest with you, I'd be curious on how many Slaves to Darkness factions were even, armies were even taking Fedra to begin with. I haven't noticed them.
No, I mean, again, I think their main interest was to be cheap, especially in Khorne, where having 2 units for 160 points was a good deal.
I'm talking in Slaves. Like,
Yeah,
in
that's
Slaves...
they were good in Khorne. In Slaves, I don't think it was worth it. You have better heroes.
You take the Chaos Sorcerer Lord every day of the week.
Oh, yeah.
All right. We ready for death? Alrighty, let's go. So, Flesh Eater Courts, look, obviously there has been no rules adjustments. The Battle Tome has only really recently hit the shelf, so I would imagine in the next month or so you might see some adjustments with rules as like a post FAQ, so just don't think you're out of the clear just yet, Flesh Eater Courts players. But you have seen some points adjustments. Nagash, by the way, across the board is 860 points. So you'll see this replicated in every of the death factions. You saw the Royal Terrorgeist without the mount and your Zombie Dragon without the mount have all gone down significantly. 55-point discount on the Terrorgeist, 70-point discount on the Royal Zombie Dragon. Your Cryptghast Courtier went down 20. Your Infernal Courtier went down 5. The Varghulf went down 5. The Beast Flayers went down 5. The 5-point adjustments aren't even worth talking about. No. Unless your army was like 2,005 points, it's not even worth talking about.
So it's not worth talking about for the Courtiers. It is worth talking about for the Beast Flayers, where they had to get an adjustment, but them being 110 or 120 actually is quite impactful. They are very good units that synergize very well with FEC and bring back models, because they have on their War Scroll a wound characteristic of 1, but they have a few models that are like super beefed up. Yeah. So Beast Flayers, very good units, and yeah, having them at 110 instead of 120 saves you quite a few points. It's pretty good.
My point was more that Beast Flayers were already good. A 5-point points adjustment is not going to change anything. It's not like I'm going to all of a sudden, if I was taking Beast Flayers, I was taking them, and you probably were. Unless your army was like just 5 points over and this allows you to bring them in. And I think for me, the biggest change, first off, the Cryptghast Courtier, I hated it when I did my Flesh Eater Courts preview. Mm-hmm. I was asking, why is this idiot worth 100 points when the Bone Marrow guy or the some of the other Courtier type models were 100 points? Like, this guy is not as valuable as some of the others. So bringing it into to be 80 points is a good change. And for all our Grizzlegore fans, the Terrorgeist, the Zombie Dragons going down, you know, I always thought 300 was too expensive for them or beyond. Getting them now around that 250 mark, much more in line with what I'd want to pay for them.
Yeah. Terrorgeist, I'm not sold, but Zombie Dragon, like now starts to be very interesting. So it got a very big decrease, and just being able to turn off Inspiring Presence is just great. Like, that's a monster, he's fast, he can do a bit of damage, and yeah, again, just the terror ability might be worth it.
Yeah, and it's got the rule as well. It can deep strike. If I remember correctly,
Yes.
you don't have to set it up on the table. It can deep strike, which is a rule that Soulblight used to has, and they just brought it over, which is loathsome descent as well as terror. So for 240, I mean, it's not as damaging as a Terrorgeist, but it has some really interesting utility that it brings, as you've already mentioned.
Yeah, and the Deep Strike, where I'm usually not a big fan of it on big monsters like this, is much better in Flesh Eater Courts because you have a spell that allows you to move D6 after Deep Striking. So the spell Carrion Call from the Archregent applies to every FEC unit set up at the end of the movement phase.
Yes, so, I'm like, wait a second, how do you target something that is on the table? Yes, it is yes. Good pickup.
So that's definitely not bad. It can threaten the opponent just, keeping one unit in reserve. Your opponent has to play very differently. He cannot leave his back open. He has to measure all the 9 inches to make sure that he cannot deep strike. So yeah, I like it. I think it's going to probably see play now.
Yeah, I could definitely see it. And the breath weapon as well, if you fail the charge, is still really good. The snapping maw has got a nice little attack. It's not a bad little piece. Obviously, the challenge is everyone's obsessed with now with the Morbeg Knights, and people want to take Oshoran, and this unit might be a sleeper. Like, everyone's just painting up their Oshoran. They want to get their Mortark on the table. They're going to be building some Crypt Guard to protect him. There's going to be Morbeg Knights running around. When the dust settles, I can probably see this being played more. But I think right now, everyone wants to play with their new toys.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense.
But, yeah. Nighthaunt, some other good quality of life things. So your Bladegeist Revenants, your Dread Scythe Harridans, and your Glaive Wraith Stalkers have all improved their range. So all moving to range 2, which is fantastic because they're all on bigger bases. And, this is an army that wants to reinforce the units. Anything you'd add to that?
No, it's just good changes. The points don't change anything. It's on a few heroes. It's 10 points. But the changes on the range is great. That was a big issue of Nighthaunt. They were great in the season when we had access to the battalion to allow you to fight in 2 ranks. They were just struggling to be on 32 mils base. Now they are back to be able to fight in 2 ranks. We're going to probably see them quite a lot. And they should be solid. I think they were a sleeper, even without that. So big stonks for Nighthaunt.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is the change that's going to lift them up from where they're positioned. And I think you're going to see more and more Nighthaunt hitting the table. So yes, the points discounts, Scriptor Mortis, probably not. Alrach the Drowner, probably not. Reichnor, yes, maybe. I think Reichnor probably would be the most beneficial of the changes, but the range increase to those and reinforcing and double reinforcing Nighthaunt is the big winner.
For sure.
Expect to see more Ignoring Rend on the table near you. Something that is less ignoring is Ossiarch Bonereapers. So big change when it comes to Null Myriad, which is the sub-faction that lets you shrug off spells and endless spells. But a couple of key points here. It went from a 2-up shrug if you were within 9 inches of a Mortison or Arcan, to a board-wide 4-up spell ignore and endless spell ignore. So the dice roll has gotten harder, but there's less conditions. So what are your thoughts on this one? If I'm an Ossiarch Bonereaper player, am I upset?
I think it's a good change. I think he goes against again same thing that Games Workshop tries to reduce the negative experience for some players. That 2-up was extremely strong against a very limited number of matchups. If you were playing that army, it was just awful to go against Null Myriad, and for every other army, it was just like doesn't matter. Now it's going to be less efficient against these armies, but on the other hand, it allows you to play like less KG, so have the bonus more, and you're going to benefit it more like in more circumstances. So I think it's a good change. But anyway, recently the best subfaction was not No Myriad. It was
Praetorian.
the counter charge, Mortis Praetorian MP.
Yeah, Mortis Praetorian. Yeah.
So I think this one is just more like for flavor and make sure that like it's not too awful for some players to play against. I don't think it's going to change much for the army itself.
Null Myriad was very, very popular, especially at the height of Blizzard Wizards, especially those who could teleport. Yes, the dice rollers have gotten harder, and that's what people will focus on. They'll go, "Oh, it's gone from a 2 to a 4. It's 2 to a 4." Okay, I get it. It's now 50% success rate, but you now don't have to have all these mortisans bubble wrapping, restricting your movement because you're trying to stay wholly within 9 inches. Especially that can be quite hard if you've got like a unit of 6, say a Mortis Guard. So you might not need as many mortisans on the table to be protecting your troops. But yes, the dice roll has gotten a little harder. So I guess I think they've given and they've taken at the same time. And it might make you less restricted, less castle-y, and more free to hit the table if you're running Null Myriad.
Yeah, before it was you had this bubble where you were invincible, but as long as you were putting one toe outside of it against like Seraphon, that unit was dead. Now it's going to be a bit more balanced on the entire table.
It was hard to compete on objectives where there was like 6 objectives on the table, right? Because you're castled up, and in order to stretch out to go get them, you're breaking your faction abilities. The other changes is the a whole bunch of points discounts. We've already talked about Nagash. You've seen the Arch Cavalos Xantos getting down 10 points. Vok Motorian, the Master of the Bone Tithe, went down 20 points. Your Mortek Crawler went down 10 points. You did see the Immortus Guard and the Morghast Archive go up 10 points. So they have continued to go up, where I think they started there at 180 points, if I remember. The Immortus Guard were 180 or 160. So they've really gone up. Is this enough to break somebody taking a Mortis Guard or Morghast Archive?
I don't think so, especially because if you wanted to spam them and you're a bit short in points, you can just swap to the other Morghast. They do almost the same thing. So I think we'll still see a lot of Morghast. It's just depending on how many points you have in your list. You will have Archive or the Arbingers. Immortis Guard are starting to be quite expensive now compared to where they started. Yeah. I think 1 unit is still good. More than that, at some point we were seeing like 4 or maybe even more. Like now it's not the case anymore. 1 still has values because Bodyguard is good, but also the Bodyguard being nerfed now also reduces their value. So yeah, Vok Mortian is a pretty good wizard. Now that he's at 120 points, I think he will be used as a good tech piece.
Yeah,
and he's also quite fun.
Yeah, I think the Immortus Guard, you're right. There was a time where you'd have a unit of 6 and then 2 units of 3, or you'd really go hard into the Immortus Guard. I don't think you drop them completely. I think you can still have 2 units of 3 or 1 unit of 6, but maybe always putting your points in. And then to your point, Mortis Praetorian, people are getting in those murder ponies as well. So it is bringing up the ponies, and maybe now is the time to revisit and go into those Morghast Harbingers or go into your Death Riders.
For sure.
But good changes probably across the board. Yes, your Immortus Guard have gone up. Sorry, not sorry. Your Morghast Archive. Sorry, not sorry. Curious to hear what other people think, by the way, on the Null Myriad. I think again, positives and negatives. I think it's a fair. They didn't just take something from you; they gave you something in return. Soulblight Gravelords had a change to your battle tactic, as well as a bunch of points changes. So the battle tactic, the Grasping Dead, is now pick one friendly summonable unit within 3 inches of an enemy unit. You complete the tactic if any enemy units were slain by that friendly unit this turn, and that friendly units within 3 inches of any enemies at the end of this turn. So it's got a little bit more wordy when you compare it to the old rules.
Yeah, they have added that basically you need to kill a model, which means that it's going to be harder in some situations, especially if you had like just, I don't know, just a few zombies against a big block or big units that are hard to kill. Like that would be a difference, because these zombies will probably not kill, I don't know, a Maggot Lord that they are in combat with. They will not die either, they will still be there, but now you cannot do that battle tactic there. So just made one battle tactic slightly harder for Soulblight Gravelords. It's probably fine. Battle tactics are easy for them. Making them a bit harder is a good balance.
Yeah, you just need to make sure you don't kill the unit. And if you do, you need to make sure you're still within 3 inches of another unit. So you just need to string out. You just need to be like you might catch yourself out and overkill and not be within 3. That's the risk. But otherwise, it's not a big change. It's a minor adjustment at most.
Yeah.
Some other changes, and I know one of my friends, Deke, big fan of the Blood Knights and big fan of his Prince Vordry, loving these changes, right? So you see, Evia Volgar went down some points, Prince Vordry went down 30, Terrorgeist down 10, White King down 10, Blood Knights down 20, Vargeist down 10, Zombie Dragon down 10, Corpse Cut went up 10. King Volak Volmor went up 10, and then Fellbat went up 10. So clearly skeletons and zombies, mostly zombies and a corpse cart, have been popular. Neferata's been running around. You're seeing some of the other units get promoted a little bit. There's a couple that I think are impactful. The Blood Knights going down 20 is a nice adjustment, but and Prince Vordry as well. But is it going to change most lists? Even the White King might make the skeletons more competitive.
Yeah, I think it's going to just improve the internal balance of the book. At the beginning of that book, we saw a lot of the Legion of Blood, but has been quite a few months where it's mostly Virkos with the zombie spam that is affected here by the change on the Corpse Cart, even if it's minor. And the big one has been especially Legion of Night. And Legion of Night loves Fellbats. Usually run a couple units of it. So that's where you see the little nerf. King Morlock Vermont was also a good tech in Legion of Night, because countercharging and blocking pile-ins, basically a slightly worse version of the combo with Glotkin and Sloppy Ball Piper, but same idea. Opponent's turn, you countercharge and you prevent them from piling in, just like preventing them to do anything. So these two are targeted at Legion of Night, and then all the buffs help the other subfaction. So Legion of Blood, particularly with the Blood Knights, as well as can you help me with the name of the vampire subfaction?
Castelli.
Yes, thank you, Castelli. So these two, hopefully, will, with the buff on the Blood Knights, we'll see a bit more play and like improve win rate.
Yeah, the Castelli buff. Look, again, my friend Deke, he's gonna know this, but I'm not the biggest fan of Castelli, but I know he's very excited. He's very excited, and that's always a win for me. I think there's some nice wholesale changes here. Prince Vordry, I was taking him. I'm gonna love this discount. Am I gonna wedge him into my V-Cross list? Probably not. But overall, some nice little points adjustments, and I think the Blood Knights are the big winners here. They're cool models. They like to be run. We're a little bit expensive now. Maybe more incentive to run some Blood Knights.
Yeah, they needed that. I think now it's going to be interesting. And again, there are two subfactions that they like to be in, and now these two subfactions will probably see a bit more play. In Legion of Blood with Neferata to make them unrunnable, which is quite nice. And in Legion in Castello, where they just like to be there because they are vampires.
Yeah. Plus, you've got the new vampire Sekhar, so who knows what she does for our Soulblight friends, and might bring some more tech.
Yeah.
Let's get into Destro, or destruction, as our friends would say. First off, Gloomspite Gitz, no rule changes for the Gitz, but there are a bunch of point changes. So a lot of the spider varieties, so the Ragnarok spider with the Warp Party, your Skitterstrand spider, your Web Spinner Shaman on a Ragnarok have all gone down 10 points. Your Web Spinner Shaman has gone up 5 points. Your Loon Boss on Mangler Squig went down 10 points. Boingrots went up 10 points. Gobbapalooza went up 10. Sneaky Snufflers went up 10. Scuttletide Endless Spell went down 10. So lots of adjustments here and there. Most recently, we've seen the Boingrot Bounder spam, where you see, lots of maybe 2 units of 15 or 2 units of 10 or 3 units of 10, like just absolute mortal wounds on the charge, and then use the recursion from King's Gitz. So it's no surprise that the Boingrots have gone up. Gobbapalooza and Sneaky Snuffle are still incredible value, which is why they keep going up. But I think a lot of people are excited about the spider changes, given I think there's some interesting things with the spiders, and maybe why you might want to include a spider in your Gitz list.
Yeah, I think for me these changes are a bit disappointing, because Gitz was about a healthy win rate, but in reality, a lot of the lists were quite weak, and you had the Bounders spam with Gobbapalooza and Sneaky Sniffer, like the Gitz list that was carrying it to the top, and I was still a top army. It finished 3rd at the World Championship. Like, it's still extremely strong. So that deserved to be nerfed, and that's like a good nerf. The issue is that the rest did not get buffed enough, I think. Trolls probably deserve some love, and spiders deserved, I think, more love. Trolls, just a bit, not too much, but I think they are still a bit like underpowered in terms of like tactics. They are very one-dimensional, which is like a weakness in the current AOS. And spiders like definitely need more than that.
I'm going to put spiders to the side, because like your spider riders, absolutely. I think if you want to promote spiders, and I don't know if they do, I really don't know if they do, because they are Warhammer Fantasy old sculpts, and I wonder if a spider redesign is coming down the track, or a removal completely. I'm not so sure on the spiders in Gitz. But what I can tell you is I wonder if the new Trog model, the Trog King, I wonder if they're waiting to see the impacts of him in the faction, and because Trogs are a good 3-2-4-1 army.
Yeah,
they're in a good spot. They are one-dimensional, to your point. I feel like what they need is more models. They need more options, as opposed to more Trogs. No, like you just need some options. Gobbapalooza makes. Like I play Gitz, yes, I want them to get discounted, but I don't know if they need the support. I think they're in a good spot.
Okay.
The web spinner doesn't surprise me. 65-point wizard did not surprise me. So 70 points is still very good. The Loon Boss on Mangler, I started to see more play. So he's an interesting piece, but when I think about, I can take basically a unit of 10 Boingrot Bounders for the same price as a Loon Boss on Mangler, I'm going Boingrots every day of the week, unfortunately. So, and the changes to Rally did hurt the Hoppers, and it's pure recursion. It's pure King's Gitz, bring them back, go and mortal wounds, rinse and repeat.
I mean, King Gitz has been the sub-faction to play now for a little bit.
Yeah.
Whether you play Gitz, Squigs, or Trolls, it's still the best choice. So
yeah.
Probably also makes it a bit harder to like analyze the data because everyone plays King's Gitz.
Not me. I'm Bad Snatchers represent, but yes, every other person is doing. every other person who's not an idiot is doing King's Gitz. But I think this is fair. I'm probably surprised that Boingrots didn't go up 20 points based on their performance, but I'm not surprised by any of this. Ogres had some points discounts, no new rules. The Blood Pelt Hunter, the Butcher, and the Lead Belchers went down 10 points. Your Frostlord on Thunder Tusk and your Mournfang pack went down 20 points. So a lot of these models are quite expensive, so people might just get a Triumph more than anything. If you run, I mean, the Mournfang pack, if you're running a bunch of Mournfang, 40 points, 60 points might be okay, might allow you to bring in something extra. But I think a lot of this, the Lead Belchers is not a bad little one as well, actually. You probably take a couple of units of Lead Belchers or at least a reinforcement, so not bad.
Yeah, I don't know if the Lead Belchers is enough to having them see the table when you play like Foot Ogres. Mournfang pack is now a very good option to have a cheap battle line. So we might see more of them. Some crazy people might spam and run 20 of them, but I think just in most lists we're just gonna see now a couple units, just because again, like cheap battle lines is always nice.
Cheap, durable, lots of wounds. The Mournfang pack, yeah, that's the winner. Frostlord on Thunder Tusk is an interesting one because the minute that the Frostlord on Stonehorn could become a priest as an option, you've seen the Thunder Tusk Frostlord kind of drop down a little bit.
Yeah. Wait a second. Is the Frostlord on Thunderstruck a wizard? Is he not the other?
No. There's isn't there a command trait or an artifact that allows you to turn them into a priest?
Yeah. But
yeah.
Is it not the Huskard that's a priest?
Maybe. Yeah. Sorry. Maybe I'm confusing Frostlord and Huskard. Yes.
Let me
You're
check.
right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I think the Frostlord on Thunderstruck is just a cheaper Frostlord.
Yeah.
So you just have the same 3-up save, but because it's a Thunder Tusk, it does a lot less damage, and I believe it does not have the 5-up ward.
But you should have the Blood Vulture.
No.
Is there Blood Vulture on that one?
Nope.
I think my point still stands.
Yeah.
Like Thunder Tusk is always a weaker version of Stonehorn, and people used to really only run Thunder Tusk because it was super cheap at one point, or because you want to get the priest, and you now can get the priest in other builds.
Yep. Yeah, quite light changes for the ogres. Yeah. To be fair, they were doing quite well, surprisingly. The monster truck builds had some very good results. My friend Bill went 5-0, 6-0, I guess, at LVO. And we had quite a few 4-1s. So yeah, with the foot ogres. So that's an army that like does well into good hands. They probably didn't need too much. They were quite balanced.
I think you've also got to remember that they've gained a new terrain feature in the Moor Pit, which we haven't seen the full impacts just yet. And we also haven't really seen the full impacts of the Gorgia Moor pack, where we now got a unit of 5 as opposed to the previous version. And yeah, I like they're in a good spot. They do what they do. They do it well. And you got something to say?
No. I was on the wrong website for the factions.
Yeah, cool. I think they're fine. They weren't struggling. They didn't need it. And I'm looking forward to seeing more people pick up the Gorgia Moor pack and the playing with the Moor Pit. Because I think it's got some interesting rules. Finally, in Destruction, you have a whole bunch of changes. So many changes, I had to change the font size. So the first key point is in the last Battlescroll, there was 2 new battle tactics that were added to the Orruk Warclans. So Sneak Up, and that's our turf now. Now, they were faction-specific battle tactics. You can see Sneak Up is for Cruel Boys, and Iron Jaws had that's our turf now. Big War found out at one particular point that they could do both of them because it wasn't keyword locked other than just Cruel Boys and Iron Jaws, and Big War can do both. So what they've done now is they've keyworded it specifically to your general. So if your general is a Cruel Boys, you can only do the sneak up battle tactic. If you are, that's our turf now, it has to be Iron Jaws. So Big War, you're choosing one or the other. You don't get both. And that is going to impact Big War significantly because they basically had 2 free battle tactics at one particular point. What are your thoughts on that change?
It should have been that from the beginning. It was like clearly an oversight. The other battle tactics of the books are locked to your general, so that's not a surprise. And that was also probably the only way they had to nerf Big War without nerfing Iron Jaws and Cruel Boys, which they don't want to. So definitely a great change. I think it makes it better to have a Cruel Boys general than Iron Jaws in Big War, because sneak up is easier to do than that's our turf now, and the other battle tactics from Cruel Boys is also easier than the Iron Jaws one. Like doing 10 damage without taking 10, it's much easier than having your entire army in range of the opponent quite early in the game. So
yeah, Cruel Boys and Iron Jaws as a faction didn't need to be nerfed. They are, low, but they're on the rise, especially Cruel Boys. Like, you saw Jacob Brendan and some other, really good players picking up Cruel Boys. So you're seeing them kind of raise from the depths of hell, which they have been in for a long time. They have. Like, it was Big Yellers for a long time. Now it's gone to Gritting Blades. Good overall changes that needed to happen because Big War had just lost the plot and they were really too high. That should bring them down a peg. The other change as well is that the more Grunter with Hack and Crew, the more Grunter Gorges, and the Tusk Boss, they've all changed to these unstoppable momentum rules. So you can see there that it's a lot more wordy. They've simplified it and made it easier or not as harsh on the momentum. And that was always one of my gripes. 1, they were a little bit costly, but 2, I thought the unstoppable momentum was too hard and you lost momentum too quickly. Does that change anything for you? I think it's a nice quality of life thing, and it might add one of these big pigs to your list.
Yeah. So I guess since you did not really say it for people who are not watching and just listening, the change is that the momentum reduces end of round instead of end of turn now, which is definitely better. They are still expensive, and the cheap one, the Gougers, they are pretty nice, but they have a worse Monstrous Rampage. So price is good, but the Monstrous Rampage is not as good. And the other 2 have the very good Monstrous Rampage that also allows you to charge in combat. So basically help you to keep up your momentum, but they are still quite expensive. I think they need one more round of point drops to be good.
Yeah.
I think the hero with one more drop could be a good cheap alternative to a Mokrasha. You can give him the enhancement to be able to give Mighty Destroyer to multiple units. He's quite tanky. It's just that right now he's too expensive. So it's going the right direction. For Big Pigs lover, it's great. The change on the momentum and the point reduction makes it like much better. But is it still is it competitive yet? I don't think so.
Yeah, for someone who's looking for like a light version of a Maw Crusher, you're right. The points are too close to the likes of Gordrak or a Mega Boss with with Mighty Destroyer on a Maw Crusher. I think it's just too close. But you are getting closer. I think for me, the what's the alternative build to the weird brute wreckers? It's the what was it? I can't think of their name, and it's not. I can't see it in the app. But anyway, I'm surprised that they didn't go up in points. They seemed quite cheap, and I can't think of their name.
The Ragers.
The Ragers. That's it. I'm surprised that they didn't go up, but because the wreckers they felt too expensive.
Yeah, I mean, Wreckers went down slightly, very slightly, just to round down. I guess they were not seeing that much play anyway. I think Iron Jaws still mostly plays pigs,
Yeah.
and Big War has so many different units that like they do play some Ragers, but like probably not enough for Games Workshop to have data that gives them the confidence that they need to go up.
100 points for 3. 100 points for 3 is still very good value on that unit. So I expected maybe like a 10-point increase on this particular one, at least. But yeah, they probably haven't hit the tabletop yet to get enough data, to your point.
Yeah, the other changes are the killer boss on Nashtooth is getting yet another point drop. And I don't remember at what value he started, but it was a lot.
Keep going. I'm gonna bring up the first battle tome. I'm gonna have a look.
The issue with him, I think, is just that he's 10 wounds. Make him 9 wounds and he will be played, but 10 wounds, like in Crowboys, you try to keep your drops low because your shooting army quite fragile. And because he's 10 plus wounds, he just doesn't fit in Battle Rage. I mean, you have other like big commanders. So how much was it?
Have a guess. Have one guess.
I think 180.
170. 170 as per the original book.
That's insane. He lost like a third of his points. I mean, more than a third.
In 3 years, he's now lost 60 points. So you can see that, that things are getting adjusted, and maybe that's hope for our Tuskors and our more Grunters. There's hope for us yet.
I think for this one, it just shows that the War Scroll is not good for the army. Just make him 9 wounds and he will be great, because he will be able to fit as a sub-commander. He will get cover. He will get lookouts. Right now, I think like it's just not good enough, even at 110 points. So yeah. Monster Killers, 130 points. They were great. They are still good. Killer Boss with Stab Grot can be good in some builds where you want to basically be immune to bravery check because you only lose 1 model. And now at 80 points, he's just like super cheap. The interesting changes are for Iron Jaws, where your Art Boys are finally down to a decent value. They were just too expensive at 220. And in combination with the Big Boss, that's also down in points, I think you can start now to maybe play a big Art Boy list, very tanky playstyle with a big anvil, rather than just playing the classic Gorgon tiles.
Yeah, that was my big gripe when I got the new War Scroll, and they used to be that cheap 80-point unit of chaff. Then they completely changed their role. Now at 200 points, they're getting closer to maybe migrating to a bit more of a foot hero style. They're probably still a little far off, but they're definitely closer to maybe moving away from all pigs into something like heavy Art Boys. Get into those rages. Maybe tap into some more of the foot kind of style. Maybe you still have a fast hit crew, but you're not all pigs. You're not all pigs and more crushers.
Yeah. Speaking of foot, the Anvil Smasher still too expensive.
Yeah.
When you compare him to a Watch Hunter, like Watch Hunter has a great buff, no roll needed, just give +1 damage. This guy is more expensive, and he can fail his ability to give the mortal wounds. Mortal wounds are great, but not at 150 points, I think.
His role is very similar to the Cities of Sigmar, the Warforger. So, I would expect a very similar value. So, 120, 130 type of thing. Just obviously he's a little bit more tankier, got a few more wounds, but like 150 is too expensive.
Yeah, and it's not an aura. It's just targeted on 1 unit, right? So, like, for me, it should be maybe even cheaper than that. Or it should be basically same price as a Watch Hunter. So, like, you get a choice between the two. Like, do I want the guaranteed +1 damage? Or actually, I already have it. So, do I want a second Watch Hunter? Or do I want him to get mortal wounds to my army? That would be good. Right now, there is just no question. Like, do you take a second Watch Hunter or do you take him? Well, you take a second Watch Hunter.
Every day of the week. Every day of the week, you're doing a Watch Hunter. Every day. Yep, I would agree. I have no gripe. I think we both agree. I think there's maybe another round of changes to come, but we are heading in the right direction. And maybe the momentum will shift in the last couple of months before our new General's Handbook. Maybe. Some other changes, an army near and dear to my heart. Sons of Behemoth has had a change. So first off, the real quick one is Warstopper went down 10 points. Man Crushers went down 10 points. The Mob, so the unit of 3, went down 30 points, aka 10 points a model. So nice little changes. Unfortunately, Gargans can't do anything with those points discounts. Very rarely does it allow us to do anything. It might allow you to bring King Broad or another Gatebreaker into your list. It might improve your ability to get a Triumph. My big question is, why hasn't the Kraken Eater received a discount? Because it is rarely on the table, yet the Warstopper is the one that usually gets the most discount. So looking at you, anti-Kraken Eater people, why aren't we getting discount? Where's the love for the Kraken Eater? I think you're still scarred from kicking objectives in 2nd edition.
Maybe there is a Kraken at Games Workshop that's like, I don't like this guy.
Well, they're all scarred. Like remember when they're at their height, kicking objectives, changing the points value, and everyone just hated them. Like they're paying for the sins of the past.
Oh yeah. But I guess this discount on the little guys is nice if you want to play the the Stomp, like the more regular army where you probably want them for battle tactic. Always get. I mean, maybe it just gives you a better Triumph. That's better than nothing.
That's the thing, is it gives you a better chance of a Triumph. So, and it's always appreciated to get the +1 to wound. The other big change is one of the monstrous rampages. So Earthshaking Roar, people would know from basically you pick an enemy unit that's an idiot, so 1 or 2 wounds characteristic. You roll 2d6. If it's higher than the bravery, for every point that you exceed the bravery, one of them runs away. So, it can be a nice little way to do mortal wounds on the charge. Then you make them run away from the Earthshaking Roar. They've kind of kept it, but they've changed it. So you pick the unit, you roll a dice. On a 3-up, the unit cannot issue or receive commands. So regardless of how many wounds it has, it's just like threat out, 3-up, can't issue or receive. Then, in addition, if you're successful, so you get the 3-up on the repeat that sequence. Basically, roll above its bravery. If it has wounds characteristic of 1 or 2, blah 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 blah. For me, it's not a guarantee. So clearly, there's a negative. It's like, okay, well, if I go into a unit of idiots who have a low bravery, there's a guarantee that I'm probably going to make at least one of them run away. Now it's relying on a 3-up. But the benefit is that when I'm in a fight where I don't have those 1 or 2 wound idiots, I've still got something I can do. I can still 3-up, shut down, essentially get a second roar. So for me, this is ultimately a win. I lost a little bit, but I think I gained more than I lost.
I think it's just nice to have basically a second roar. The bravery characteristic and limited to 1 and 2 models meant that it was very corner case, was not useful in a lot of scenarios. And even if it was, you could still roll poorly on your 2d6 and it was useless. A second roar means that either you can roll 2 units, or if you need to really roll 1 unit, you have 2 chances. Yes. If you have 2 Gargans next to it. And that is amazing. There are some scenarios where you really need that roll, and it will, that's just great. I think that's a good buff to Gargans. And you can still do the mortal wounds, the thing with the bravery is just that it's on a 3-up now. But the other part, just being able to roar, that's the best monstrous action. It's amazing.
I've gained more than I've lost, and for me, this is a win. I would love this. So big win here.
So now you're gonna play the normal Gargans?
I actually think I am. Like, I played King Broad Stomp at LVO, and while it was fun, I got tied up too much on my battle tactics, because I mentioned this in my LVO review. I played ogres who did. I was ogre, like basically all the Stonehorns and the Mournfang. I played Piggies and double Maw Crushers, so Iron Jaws. I played against a what else was it? There was another a Sun's Mirror. So basically, whoever charged, I got pinned half the time, and I can't do Surround and Destroy. I can't do Retreat and Charge. Like there's so many. It's like I need more flexibility on my battle tactics. So I'm thinking about going to the old book and maybe bringing in the Regiment of Renown, bringing in the Gitz Regiment of Renown. I think that just unlocks more battle tactics for me.
And, oh yeah, it's great. Yeah, and also Grand Strat. Like the Grand Strat is almost guaranteed with that Regiment of Renown, because the Grand Strat where you have to run or charge doesn't say Gargants. It can be any friendly unit. So you can just have that little guy in a corner just running every turn and scoring you 3 points. So I think it's really good.
Plus, obviously, I can also get extra artifacts with the battalions where I can't use battalions in King Bronze Stomp. There's just so many benefits. I'm like, I kind of wish I took that to LVO. Not what I took, but King Bronze Stomp is still very good. And this change will just make the old book even better.
Oh yeah.
Which then brings us finally to the order sub-order. So some very interesting changes here. Starting off with Cities of Sigmar. So Akamite Warforger, as we've talked about, basically the key change here is it's now a melee weapon. So people used to use the Akamite Warforger with your Fusiliers, and it would just cause absolute terror, doing mortal wound, high volume of damage from afar. They've basically just tweaked it slightly to now be melee, not shooting. Thoughts?
Great. No, that's a great change. It was just like too much like damage. Like playing against shooting cities was not fun. A lot of damage, super high range. The Fusiliers were still super tanky. Bringing them back with the Command Core, so like it's a good change overall. It's still good. The Warforger is still insanely good because it still has the choice between the +1 save aura or the mortal wounds. Now it's just for melee. It also went down in points, so definitely a great unit to still bring. Just maybe list building will have to change and be less shooting spam, playing more. Like I got the chance to play and lose against the ultimate winner of LVO, and his list it had some shooting, but very little. Was more like little heroes with shooting, or like the Wildercore Hunters. Was mostly melee, and talking with the lead developer of AOS, he was saying that's how he wants cities to be played. For him, that's what a cities list to be. A lot of tech, little units charging in melee, using again like a more balanced list than just 60 Fusiliers or 5 steam tanks that we're gonna talk to in a second.
Yeah, you're spot on. I think to play devil's advocate here, I think some people are upset that Fusilier points didn't go down. So yes, the Akamite Warforger has changed. So is 170 points now the right price for Fusiliers? And honestly, it's hard to justify reinforcing or double reinforcing without the Akamite Warforger. Yes, they can ignore Rend, and yes, they've got a really long range and they can do some things, but you've lost some tech, and maybe some would argue right now that they're a little bit too expensive now for what they do. So
I agree.
I guess the proof will be in the pudding. Let's see how people go, but I can see people dropping at least from a unit of 30 down to a unit of 20.
Yeah, I think they're a bit too expensive now, but I would just say that's probably a good lesson. Just when you know that something is broken, obviously broken, it will be fixed. Don't buy 60 of them. You know it's not going to last. It's not going to survive the first FAQ.
I think there was one person at LVO who had 70 Fusiliers in his list. I'm like, you're mad. Like, you let me know when they're nerfed and I'll buy some off you. What else has happened? So the Iron Will Great Cannon went down 10 points. The Akamite Warforger went down 10 points. The Fusil Major on the Ogre Warhulk went down 20 points. Talia, the Manticore Lady, has gone down 40 points. The Wild Corp Hunters went down 10 points. The Steam Tank went up 20 points. The Steam Tank Commander went up 20 points. And the Free Guild Command Corp went up 30 points. So a lot of movement and adjustments. some interesting ones. I don't know if the Fusilier Major on the Ogre Warhulk or the Great Cannon is enough to get them into play. But if you want some shooting, for example, maybe these two might you shift the unit of 30 down to 20 of the Fusiliers, and maybe it goes into a Great Cannon or a Warhulk, or you just put them back into steam tanks. They're effective. They are effective.
Yes, steam tanks. It's hard for me to tell because they did not benefit from the Warforger as much as the Fusiliers, but they still did. Because their 3d6 shots has a lot of attacks that definitely were improved by the mortal wounds. But I think they were still good without it. So is it too much? I don't know. But I guess that was the issue. Like for whoever has too many steam tanks, you can just blame Gavin. And yep, that's about it.
Well, just look, I mean, like, it's more than just Gavin. Like, I think but to your point, like it was definitely heightened at the end of LVO where it was a steam tank. Gavin's list, by the way, had the steam tank commander, 4 steam tanks. So what's that? 5 times 20 is 100 points. 2 units of 6 free guild command corps. So that's another 60 points added. So you're almost an extra 200 points. So, and that list was 2,000 points on the nose.
Oh, yeah.
So where do you find 200 points? Is that one less steam tank? Is that the Hurricanum dropped?
I think you drop one using 1 unit of command corps probably, and that would still be good. Like you're losing some mortal wounds, you're losing 1 command corps, so it's not as good, but that will still be very strong army. They're just very efficient. Especially because how many Warforger did he have? Do you know that?
Only one. He had 1 Battle Mage and 1 Warforger.
Yeah, so the Warforger, like early turns, might have been doing the mortal wounds, but then very quickly when you get into melee, it was doing the aura of +1 save probably. I've not watched his game to say for sure, but like +1 save on steam tanks is insane. It's an aura, so they are all on a 1-up save. If you don't have mortal wounds in your army, you're not chewing through that. So yeah, they're still good.
They are still very good. Maybe not 5
less.
steam tank good. Yeah, maybe not 5 steam tank good.
Oh, still, yeah. I think still 5. We're gonna see a lot of lists with 5. Just 1 less command corps.
I hope not. If we do, we're just gonna see another round of nerfs. So maybe if you love your steam tanks, folks, maybe don't abuse them because they will just keep getting a focus. But what I hope to get to focus is Talia. I think Talia is interesting, right? Because Talia, the Manticore, she is competing with the Free Guild General on Griffin, which I think is quite effective. For me, yes, Talia can issue 2 commands and do some really cool shenanigans. She is keyword locked to Hammerhall, but I think she's interesting enough. But she is competing in the same points value as that Hurricanum, that Luminarch, that Free Guild General on Griffin. Also, Free Guild Marshal on Griffin and Talia. Like they're all in the same points value, or it's another steam tank.
Yeah, I think her main issue, as you said, is her city. That's not good. I mean,
no one's using Hammerhall. No one's using Hammerhall.
And the biggest issue is that she's unique. So she doesn't get the very nice enhancements that you have for the Griffin. The artifact, the hammer that gives you +1 damage, +1 rend, makes him like slap a lot. And then you have the choice between either making him tanky, where you can only wound him on a 4-up, or making him a priest to have the aura of +1 to wound in melee. So I think that these unique enhancements are these enhancements that you cannot have when you're unique really make the difference between the two. Now, that being said, there are probably some builds that can be good with Talia, where you just more like try to abuse the Fob Rally and go like in a more like melee focused build with like anvils, like Warforger to give the +1 save and like try to like grind. But I think she still loses the comparison, like the direct comparison with the Griffin.
Yeah. Like I was thinking about like a knight, like a cavalier build for my cities, and I'm like, I'd love Talia in the list, but then like I just get more flexibility and more benefits from the Free Guild Marshal on Griffin. So she's got some interesting stuff. The 6-up ward, and I'm going to talk to Kyle, who did really well with cities as well. So we're going to revisit cities. I don't want to go too much into this, but I think it's not all doom and gloom. I think it's just kind of steering people away from just Fusilier spam and steam tank spam. I think they're trying to move you to a more diversified, even list.
Oh yeah,
right.
I'm really. I mean, I think I'm gonna play cities this sometime this year. I really liked having my butt kicked by Jeremy. So
I just want to play Miss Tarvin. Just want to charge. I'm just a destruction boy.
I want Miss Haven. That's great.
I've got 25 knights sitting above me, so I'm probably going to build them eventually. Speaking of something that is tempting me also is getting my Daughters of Khaine out of the cabinet. So a couple of good changes to Daughters of Khaine. First one is the clarification on Crystal Touch. There's clearly been a lot of confusion around, does Crystal Touch happen before or after a slain model and all the sequence. It has been clarified it's now happens before models are removed, so you'll get more of your Crystal Touch goodness. Then there's been a bunch of points discounts to the Bloodrack Shrine, the Hag Queen on Cauldron, Slaughter Queen on Cauldron, Morathi Khaine, and the Shadeborn, the Shade Stalkers. So 10 and 20 point discounts here and there. First off, I think we both probably agree that the Crystal Touch clarification is probably the most impactful thing at the moment.
Yeah, I think so. It's just good now that it's clear. We'll see a bit later. It's the same with Seraphon. So now there is no more confusion. And yeah, that will definitely upgrade the damage. I think Doc is still a very good army. The easy battle tactics this season are like nice. So not an easy army to play anymore compared to earlier in the edition, because they are still quite elite. And I think if you do some mistakes, you can be like heavily punished. But I think they are good, and I think the Morathi enjoyers will be happy to see them back to the 600s. In the end, it's not many changes. Probably most lists will go down 20 to 30 points. But I mean, as we were discussing for a lot of the factions before, it's always nice. It might allow you to upgrade one unit or get a better triumph. And like those were not particularly struggling, so any buff is good to take.
Yeah, and obviously,
but I think every dog player are waiting for the new unit. Oh, sorry.
Correct. No, I think there's a little bit of lag, so apologies if we sounded like we were talking over each other. But yes, exactly, that was maybe going to be my point, was that there's the new Dawnbringers coming, which has the Khorne. Who knows what's coming? Is there going to be an army of renown? Is there going to be a bunch of rules on the Khorne that will lift up Daughters of Khaine, and maybe you don't need Morathi? Who knows? I think we're just going to have to wait and see for that particular one. But so far, some positives. Let's see what comes from Dawnbringers. Next up is our Fire Slayers. Our Fire Slayers are very similar, has a lot of quality of life things, where your Volkite Berserkers with the bladed sling shields, as well as your Volkite Berserkers with your Fire Steel hand axes. All of those weapons, so the hand axe, the war pick, and the hand axe, they've all gone to 2-inch range, which is a good quality of life. It's going to benefit those to reinforce, get more attacks in, like just good quality of life improvements. The other adjustment is a whole bunch of points discounts. The Orruk Runefather went down 10. The Orruk Rune Sun on Magmadroth went down 10. Battlesmith down 10. Doomseeker down by 10. The Flamespitter down by 10. Orruk Hearthguard went down 10. Hearthguard Berserkers went down 10. The Runefather on Magmadroth went down 20. Rune Smiter went down 20. Rune Smiter on Magmadroth went down 20. So no points increases, but lots of discounts. Do you think this is going to increase the popularity of Fire Slayers, or to me, it's the extra range that is the most impactful. Obviously, the points discounts help as well, but getting more attacks in from those big based boys is only going to be a good thing.
Yeah, I don't know how much is going to increase the popularity because it's just not a very popular army. But not very far from where I live, there is like a very, very good Fire Slayer player. And I think they were already good when in good hands. They were just suffering from like a few little things. Like they got points increased in the last Battlescroll for no reason. So that is corrected here and even more points drop. So that's great. And definitely the increased range on the Volkite means that we're gonna probably see quite a lot of them in I think it's in Volstagg. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that, but like the sub-faction that just makes them good.
Mm.
Also, something that is not written on that screen because it's general stuff, but the new battle tactic would be quite good for Fire Slayers.
Yes.
They probably don't want to bring wizards, so they would be just happy to have a new battle tactic. And they usually play enough heroes and fast enough with the magma draw that they can put their Nullstone adornments on these guys, and they can go and contest objectives like you want them to anyway. So probably a very good battle scroll overall for Fire Slayers. I don't know if people will start the army with that, but I think people who had the army and were just not playing it recently will definitely be considering it.
Yeah, for the people who have Fire Slayers who maybe drop them, I can see people dusting those factions back off. There's enough points discounts that maybe you can put a Flamekeeper in your list. There's probably about 100 points of savings from an average Fire Slayers list. So that gets you an Invocation or a sub commander hero. To your point, the extra battle tactic is quite nice from the general match play and the extra range. So good time to be a Fire Slayer player. Maybe this is definitely something that would get me re-inspired to pick my boys up and play with them again.
Yeah, I think they are one of the big winners of this Battlescroll.
Yeah, I would agree. I would wholeheartedly agree. Nothing but positives for them. Idoneth Deepkin, some interesting changes. Points adjustment to our eels. So both the Ishlan Guard and the Morsar Guard all went down 10 points. No surprise considering it's just been shark spam, shark spam, shark spam. Nothing but Futhan. So God bless them. There has been a change to the Futhan rules. So change the Bloodthirsty Shiver to you can include Bloodthirsty Shivers in your army. If the unmodified hit for an attack made with the Bloodthirsty Shiver is a 6, that attack automatically wounds. So instead of being exploding 6s, so 6s turn into 2 attacks, it's now just going through automatically wounding. What do you think about that one, Fabien?
That and no point changes for the Sharks means that they are still good and we will still see a list with 9 of them. It's more a side grade than a nerf. They lose potential extra attacks and therefore damage, but they gain in reliability. So they will just be less random. And yeah, they didn't go up in points, so Sharks still good.
Yeah, that surprised me actually. I probably would have expected the points to go up because the Shark is 150. Obviously, in a Bloodthirsty Shiver, that's a unit of 3 or 3 Sharks for 450. They do have a low volume. Like if you use the Razor Sharp Harpoon Launcher, there's 4 attacks. So, I mean, I guess in melee, it will have there's the Barbed Hook is 6 attacks, Ferocious Bite is 3 attacks. So in melee, it's still a bit more potent. I guess part of the negative playstyle of the Futhan was the sheer amount of shooting at the start and getting the exploding 6s and some of the damage before they got into combat, which I guess is going to be reduced from this change.
Yeah, it's a bit less damage, but less swingy too. So I really don't think it's going to change much. I was expecting them to go up 10 points probably, so you cannot have 9 Sharks and probably lose 1, but nope. Same list, still good.
Yeah, it's a change. It's not a nerf. Like I would go, oh, okay. Like sure, you'll get a little less damage, but it's not like holy shite. Like Khorne, it's not like holy shite. My plan has significantly changed. It's not a Khorne change. It's not a massive nerf. It's a minor adjustment. So I think IDK you got off light. You really got off light.
Yeah. At the same time, they also did not get any buffs for the rest of their armies, like the Achilleans, so the eels, the Ishline and Morsar were down 10. They are better now. Still slightly expensive. They could probably be 150, but 160 is good. The issue is that almost nothing else changed. We can see that the spell for the aspect of the sea changed. The reason is you used to be able to stack your -1 save on the same unit because of the FQ that said that you could. Now they have changed that. You cannot stack any ability that says up to 3 or on the same unit. But they have improved the spell. The range went from 12 to 18 and from D3 to 3. So not as good to just focus one unit, but the extended range and more reliable number of units make it, I guess, a side grade. Still probably a downgrade, but
it's a downgrade. It's a downgrade because for those people who are stacking the negatives, that's when, like, for example, the shooting attacks really got supercharged with some high rend.
Only for melee, but
it's a melee one, is
yeah.
But still.
Yeah, I mean, it was really good. You will teleport your guy, target a unit, give it -D3 save, and then you could like lift it, like even if it was like, I don't know, Chaos Warriors or like any Stormcast, like when you take -D3 save before rend, that hurts.
Yeah, like if you look at the 6 attacks from the Sharks at rend -1, it's like it's manageable. But when you start stacking the negatives to save plus the rend, that's when we're not having a good time.
Yeah. So yeah, overall, just for most of, like for the Sharks, as we said earlier, they probably got out okay. They could have been like much worse. And for the rest of IDK, is very light changes.
Yeah, I'm sure the people who weren't Shark spamming were hoping for more, maybe some changes or some boosts to like the Reavers and the Thralls, but I don't know. I don't know if the eel adjustments are enough to get people who are playing Sharks to drop back from Sharks. They're doing well.
Yeah, and also like Sharks are easy. Like it's 9 models plus like a turtle and like 2 foot heroes. So it's easy to travel with. It's easier to play. It's probably quite fun to play. Like you just have your very fast units like shooting around the board and like shooting and then charging, and so I think it has a lot of appeal. And as long as this is a viable build, it will probably still be the most popular.
Yep, agreed. Someone who's not maybe having a good time, and it's a KO. KO got no new rule changes. Yes, you got the new battle tactic if you don't take an arcane tome, which most of you aren't anyway. But you know, KO, no new rules. A lot of red. So in the good news is the Ironclad went down 20 points. So I've seen some people thinking about bringing back an Ironclad or maybe, you know, getting a second Ironclad. So if you want to play that style, amazing. But you saw the Chemist, the Navigator, the Admiral, the Frigate, the Gun Hauler, the Endrin Rigger, the Sky Wardens, and the Grundstock Thunderers all going up 10 points. All very popular options. And is going to make you change your list a little bit.
Yeah. KO, as we saw in the stats at the beginning, was, even after a couple of rounds of nerf, still one of the best armies in the game. Like it had the highest win rate. I think he also had the highest percentage of 5-0. It's also played by very good players, so like, that has an impact on it. Like it's not necessarily auto win, but still very strong army. So nerfs probably deserved. You lose 1 unit. That's what happens with that nerf. But you gain a battle tactic. In the end, it could have been a lot worse for KO. I think for me, the only thing that doesn't make any sense is the Sky Wardens going up. Sky Wardens are worse than Engine Riggers, so it was a good opportunity to have them either cheaper or at least at the same price. I don't know why they went up. Like they will still like not be played.
Sky Wardens?
They are the other melee guys, but not the ones that can heal.
No, but they're the ones that will go crashing in with the frigate and then yeet out on a 2 or is it a 3?
Yeah, but
Yeah, like 2+. Like the time charges like that. That's still a very powerful build when you bring in the frigate, you
I mean,
reinforce the unit, you crash in, you do all the damage, and then on a 2-up, you get out and can't be hit.
Yeah, it's just that the engine riggers basically do the same thing but better. So it's just they're not a bad unit. It's just surprising that the riggers are still cheaper than them.
Yeah, no, I can see the argument. Like, I guess the time charges might be worth a little bit extra to the unit, but I see your point. I was just having a look at Jeremy Vaselli's list. I think I just pronounced his name wrong. Apologies, Jeremy. Like, I was just looking at his list, who top 8, and his list went up about 100 points. You know, all the, couple of units of the Gunstock Thunderers, they were like there's about 100 points worth of changes here. So where you find 100 points, is it one less hero? Is it one less reinforced unit or whatever? I think some people are a bit surprised that the gun hauler went up 10 points. I think it is a battle line option, so I guess I don't know. I don't know why the gun hauler went up, to be honest.
I guess. I mean, he was in Jeremy's list, and I imagine that when Games Workshop look at the stats, probably has a very good win rate. So.
Yeah, but it's one of the only options to get, because of the restrictions on what you can put into boats now. I can see that KO people don't want to have foot, thunderers or I've forgotten their names. You don't want your foot troops, right? You want everyone in a boat or have the mobility on the boat. So having a gun hauler as your battle line and restricting the amount of people you can put into boats is probably beneficial to them. I don't know. Archanaut Company is what I was thinking about. Yeah, like because you can't put as many people in boats and your balloon boys can't hitch a ride like they used to. I can see why gun haulers become more popular, but I just don't know why they're worth an extra 10 points.
Yeah, looking at Jeremy's lists, he probably just drops 3 riggers. So that means that his little boat with the riggers does a bit less damage on the charge, but he still have all his thunderers to do damage. Still has the navigator for the debuffs, chemist for the rand. Like the army will still work the same. It just got also another battle tactic. So I think KO is still going to do fine. I think it's going to be exactly like last. So I don't know if it was last Battlescroll or the one before when they got a big nerf, and people stopped playing them. And then slowly, they were getting back to actually being one of the best army in the game. I think it's just the dwarf player. Like they overreact. They put your name in the Great Book of Grudges, but then they actually realize that it's still a very good army.
Yeah, these changes are not enough for me. If I was a KO player, I wouldn't stop playing KO. I would just have to tweak my list appropriately. I think is the key here. You're just gonna have to find 100 points approximately, give or take. Lumineth Realm-Lords, our friends. Teclis went down 20, Wind Mage went down 10, Sentinels went down 10, and the Sanctum went down 10. No new rule changes, to be honest. I think these are nothing changes. I think this is business as usual for Lumineth.
Yep. It just shows that probably the Fusiliers are a bit too expensive. If now Sentinels are down 150, I would agree with people who want them at 160. But yeah.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, yes, Lambert Light, there's been some changes that have happened to the Sentinels, but 150 is probably where you want your Fusiliers, 150 or 160. So Teclis will come in. Teclis does Teclis things. You could argue no Teclis right now. Just take a bunch of Foot Wizards and make them Mentorian Acolytes. Wind Mages, I don't think I've ever seen that on the table. There's a couple of minor adjustments here. I don't think it changes anything for Lumineth. If you were taking this, you got some points discounts. If you're not, it's business as usual.
Yeah.
Anything you'd add to that?
Nope. I agree, and yeah, there's not much to say.
What we do have plenty to say, though, is that we do have a bunch of changes to Seraphon. And this is a very... I talked at the start of the video about Games Workshop being targeted. They're not targeting just a faction. They'll look at the sub-factions. And Seraphon is one where they've clearly gone for the throat. when it comes to a particular build. So very first, the jaw bites for your Kroxigors and your Sauruses are basically the same now as your Crystal Touch rules. So it's now happening before you remove models, which is a nice quality of life change. Kroxigors, and I really like this change, Kroxigors and your Kroxigor Warsports have gone from 4 till 5. Seems like a nice little boost until you remember that now they count as 2 models on an objective, not just 1. So they've gained an extra wound and they're counting more on an objective. Nice win for the Kroxigors.
Yeah, I remember when we had the reveal, I think it was actually LVO last year. And after that, like in the next following months, so I played Sovaneth and I had done a little montage to see the size, to basically try to be like, how big are the Kroxigors? And they are basically bigger than Canon of Hunters. Like same base, but they are taller. They are big boys. So I was expecting them for sure to be 5 wounds each. And I was so disappointed to see that they were like 4 wounds and they don't hit that hard and everything. So I think there's still work to do for them to be as scary as their models. But that's a very good change to start with.
Yes, I agree. I would love to see more Kroxigor and Kroxigor Warspawn on the table, and we're moving in the right direction. And I think these will help. The other change, and one that's going to be interesting when you combine it with the points adjustments, is the change to the Starborn command trait of the Lord of the Celestial Resonance. So Seraphon has been doing very well in a very specific build. It's now 2 things, right? So, sorry, the first one is that it's the first time in each phase that the general either successfully casts or unbinds. So in the past, it was just each time this general. Now it's the first time. Impactful. Then add the layers of the points adjustments to Lord Kroak, to the Astrolith Bearer, to the Skink Star Priest, the Slann Star Master. All of a sudden, that very specific Seraphon build, which is a very, very magical castle, has gone up about 100 points, possibly more, and you're now losing a little less, you're gaining a little less cosmic power points that'll stop you from summoning as quickly and, ruining people's day by turn 2.
Yeah, that's probably good change to make the army a bit more balanced compared to the other side of the book, especially when you see that the Countersaurs and everything got some like nice points drops. But it's not dead. Like Starborn will still be playable. It's like they might have to change some things. I've seen some players they will recognize themselves change the like now completely drop the Slann and go with the Troglodon. So I think that would be just now a bit more. It would be a phase to experiment and try to see what's good. But like in the end, the army will still be playable. It's just like summoning is still strong. Maybe you get like 6 legs point per turn, but you can still summon units every turn. So it's a good change, but that doesn't kill the army, which is also good. We don't want that.
Yeah, no, it definitely doesn't kill it, but it does raise some interesting questions. Like, for example, let's say that dropping the Slann Star Master is what you do. Often the Slann Star Master is who you put the Lord of Celestial Resonance on. So who gets the command trait if it's not the second Slann? Do you drop Lord Kroak and do you lose some of the abilities? To your point, do you tap into the Troglodon? I think it asks a bunch of questions, and you can still keep this build, but you're going to have to drop, your Hunters of Hawachi, or, look for cheaper battle line, or you're going to have to drop a hero, and that reduces your cosmic power points, your summoning. So it's bringing it in line, and there was a lot of successful 4-1s at LVO in this particular build. And hopefully it promotes more Agrodons, more Carnosaurs. By the way, I didn't talk about that. Ripidactyl Chief went down 10. Your 2 versions of the Carnosaur went down 20 points. Steggies went down 20. Sorry, both your Steggy and your Steggy Chief went down 20 points. Pterodon Chief went down 10. Ripidactyls went down 10. Pterodons went down 10. You haven't really seen Pterodons or Ripidactyls for a while, so maybe not enough to kind of see them, but
I think Ripodactyls now, like I've seen them played in Starborn in a couple lists because they were good sniping units, a bit like the Raptidon Chargers. So now having the combo go down like 30 points, like 10 for the leader and 20 for a reinforced unit, that would probably be a decent option.
I think
Like
the challenge, though, is that Hunters of Hawaii play a similar role, and they're cheaper too. So this particular list has, tried to get as much points as possible, and I think that's where Hunters and Skinks play their role. But it does open them up to playing with them more often.
Yeah. Stegadons, I don't know if that's enough. I've not seen a Stegadon played since the book dropped.
It's because they changed the Thunder Lizards too much. Thunder Lizards got overcorrected, and that particular build is just not very good. Like, it pains me to say.
Yep. Carnosaur, I think we'll see one of the two variants. Right now, just looking at the name, I don't remember which one, but the one that gives the commands.
Is that Old Blood?
I think so. Yes. Yes. Issuing the same command twice, it still has the terror for turning off Inspiring Presence. Probably start to be a solid option for the Kowalyk builds. Like it's a decent chassis. I think we'll see him now.
Yeah, especially when you're hugging around, Agrodon Lancers. There's some good stuff in there, but the popular build has been Starborn. It probably will be popular. You're gonna have to find 100 points. Whether what you do with it is up to you, but you're definitely gonna have to change your point. You're gonna have to change your list. You have to. Stormcast had a nice little quality of life improvement. Vanquishers got a range of 2, which is just a big win. I've run with Vanquishers, running them outside of, as you mentioned, the old battalion from seasons ago, where you could kind of extend the range and fight in 2 ranks. This is a good quality of life improvement. The other thing is a bunch of points discount. So your Drake Sworn Templar, went down 20, Karazai went down 20, Krondas went down 20, the Questor went down 20, the Lord Relictor went down 10, and Vandus Hammerhand went down 10. So not all popular choices. Karazai, Krondas keep going down in points. Lord Relictor is a popular choice, so I'm surprised that went down.
Yeah. Lord Relictor, very surprising. It's a very good priest, +1 to chant. When you have translocation, it's just great. Karazai, Krondas start to get close to what they should be. Still a bit expensive considering they have no ward. But I think the big winners are the Quester Soulsworn, because that unit was already good at 230 points. Now I think it's really good at 210. Like 3 teleport, counts as free on objective, do quite a bit of damage. Like they are each like almost like a small hero in terms of like profile. So yeah, just a great unit. I think we'll see it a lot now in Stormcast.
Yeah, absolutely. When I thought about my Stormcast, I thought I've had to bring in a Questor, the Questor units. I think they're good. I would rather Krondas and Karazai not go down in points. I'd rather them stay at like 550 and give them a ward. Give me a ward, and I'd be much happier to pay 550 than keep dropping them down to the 500 points. But yeah, that's just like, give me a ward. Like, I'm sick of babysitting him with like
Praetors.
Praetors, or what's his name, Gardas. Like just give him a 6-up ward. If Witch Elves can have a 6-up ward, why can't a magical dragon from Jacothian's Tale have a ward? Just give me a 6-up ward.
Just pay Hammers of Sigmar.
Yeah, but I don't want to be babysitting objectives on a 500-point dragon. Just give it to me for 550. Give me a ward.
I think that's a fair request.
Just all right. Nothing else with Stormcast. Look, they did well. LVO, they're good demonstrations of them using the the kitty cat evocators, and they still work. They just like Stormcast do Stormcast things, but positive changes. Relictor, great change. Questor, Soulsworn, great change. Everything else, okay.
Yeah, I think it's a bit underwhelming. Stormcast right now is a lot of shooting. It would have been nice to, I don't know, buff some units as needed. At this point, we might just be too close to a supposedly new edition where things will change for them. So maybe that's why. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, considering
Like,
that
these changes are
is
very underwhelming for Stormcast, considering the number of War Scrolls.
Yes, considering the number of War Scrolls, and they are the oldest books. So Orruk Warclans and Stormcast are the oldest books, now getting close to 3 years. Their problem is things like battle tactics and other issues that I think is just not solvable with points alone.
Yeah.
I think we're on our last faction. Our last faction, unless I've missed something, I hope I haven't, and that is Sylvaneth. So no new rules with Sylvaneth, but we did see Alariel go down 20, Drycha go down 20, Warsong Revenant go down 30, and the Glade Worm Endless Spell go down 10. So all very hero-focused, obviously. As a Sylvaneth person, what are your takes on the Sylvaneth change?
It's, again, a bit disappointing. I think some of the non-hero units would have needed some points. Most, like the Scythe, are very rarely played right now because the kind of hunter with swords are just so much cheaper for around the same damage. Scythes have some advantage, like 2-inch range, free rend is good, but it's not worth 60 points for a reinforced unit compared to the swords. So these should have gone down probably 10 points. Seekers probably 10 points too. So like there are a few units that would have liked to go down. So this is just like quite light. I still think that Sylvaneth is good and can do good results. The only issue is that the army requires you to play perfectly. Like you have to be on the top of your game at every moment to get a very small win. And there are some matchups where your opponent is just playing with his eyes closed and just beats you, and there is nothing you can do. So the army is struggling and would have probably deserved a bit more love. And yeah, I know that there are a lot of Sylvaneth players who are extremely disappointed.
Yeah,
I think it's, again, I'm not as down as they are, but yeah, a bit disappointing.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at the top 2 lists from the LVO. So you had Michael Corbett from the Rage Babies coming in at 60th, and then Jordan from some Season of War coming in at 62nd. So they were the top performers with at a 4-1.
Yep.
And there's a lot of great bows, great swords. Belthanos, both of them had Belthanos, Archrev, some Dryads, some. Yeah, it's very interesting, actually, when you look at some of them. The Warsong, Branch Witch with, Merciless Blizzard.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to make it like a Sylvaneth show, but the issue is that these changes will not really change the lists. Like, it will allow you, like, you will get like 20, 30 points. Because usually you either play the Warsong or Alariel. I mean, there are a few lists that will not gain anything. Like, I think there are some lists that play like double one switch that don't gain anything. So now you probably want to play the Warsong. Now it's cheaper. It's probably almost auto include. You bring Berthanos, you bring an Archrev, and then you fill with either shooting or melee, depending on what you like. But that's not stronger than it was before the Battlescroll. It's the same. So it will be like good players will struggle to get a 4-1. And you need all the stars to align to get a 5-0.
Yeah. I think when I look at Sylvaneth, where they might have needed love, and you correct me if I'm wrong, maybe the Dryads and the Tree Revs might have maybe go down a little bit in their points. I think that unlocks them a little bit more. But
Dryads for sure. Tree Revs still have a good value. Teleporting is nice. Dryads at 90 would be good.
That's what I was thinking,
Sure.
actually. I'm like, Dryads are a little expensive. You bring them down a little, and it might unlock another endless spell or give you some more flexibility.
Yeah. I mean, or cheap battle line in that case that could allow some new builds. Just having a lot of Dryads and play a more defensive build with the subfaction that prevents retreating. Now, one big change that is surprising not to see here, considering a lot of the other armies got it, is the 2-inch range treatment. Spite Revenants are on a 32 mil base,
Yes.
and they have 1-inch range. They would have definitely liked to have 2-inch range, and it would have opened new builds for Sylvaneth with these little guys who you can like send, like they are very glass cannony, but it could have been interesting. I don't know why they didn't get it. So
I think another one for me is the Gossamer Archers feel like they're too expensive. At 210 points for 5 models. Yes, they're 2 wounds each. Yes, they've got some mobility. Just they you know, cities might complain about Fusiliers, but I feel like Gossamids. I'd love to see more Gossamids on the table. They just feel expensive to me.
they are great models, so it's nice to see them. You will not like to see them too much if you play a full melee army with no like mortal impact, because in some matchup they are extremely good. You will just charge them and then they will be retreating and like rinse and repeat. So they could have probably gone down a bit, but like not too much.
The art. Oh, I don't know. Like I feel like the Archers could. Yeah, I like the Archers could sit around the 180, 190 mark.
Yeah, it will probably be fine because I don't think they will be spammed anyway. They are way too fragile and they will suffer in like some matchups. So that would have been a nice change. But again, the army probably needed more points drops just so you can bring one more unit and like see a change. Like this is nothing.
Well,
Like
it just shows you why Alariel gets included in a lot of lists, because you want that extra unit on the table. And Alariel's recursion is so good. It's great to see her hitting the table more and more. And obviously, bringing back a god tier model, that's what she needed. And her healing is great. Bringing on a unit and flexibility is great. I'm actually surprised she went down in points because she is becoming more popular.
yeah, I'm surprised too.
Although
She's the only like the archetype with Alariel was the only one who got 5-0s recently.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, again, they are like all the god models went down. They want them to be more present. So maybe that's why.
Except Kragnos, where's the Kragnos discount? Give me Craggy at 600. Let's go. Let's give me 600 Kragnos. All right. That's Sylvaneth. I'm conscious of time, so I might give you just a floor and explain. I know you, as both a competitive Khorne player and a Sylvaneth player, you're starting to think about like the impacts and the changes. So, like, how has your list evolved? I guess post Battlescroll with your Khorne.
So I'll go very quick because it's starting to be a bit long, and there are not many changes compared to my list. So first thing first, I was exactly at 2,000 points. Claws of Karanak went up 20, so I replaced them by Flesh Hounds at 100. It's not as good, but Flesh Hounds are still faster, so even if I lose a bit of movement by losing the pregame move, it's still okay, and in exchange I get an Unbind, so like it's a downgrade, but at the same time also a bit of a side grade. And the other thing is losing Phaedra. So Phaedra and the Gunsworn Hunt for 160 points. I could have replaced it by 2 units of Furies for battle tactics. The issue is I need my 6 heroes to have double Warlords. So 1 unit of Furies and the Exalted Deathbringer, who is just a super cheap hero, 80 points, is actually quite good. 6s to save, do D3 mortal wound to the opponent. So if you just send him in the middle of a bunch of units that have like terrible attacks, but a lot of them, that can do a lot of damage. And in the end, it's just 80 points for 1 unit, which is great for Khorne. So that's just very slight evolution. Losing the ability to have magical dominance will make it a bit harder to score. That's why you have the Furies instead, to really help for Surround and Destroy on the battle plans where you have to go very far. And then just some like little adjustments. And then you get a Nullstone add-on, so it's not bad.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more Nullstone adornments to see what they do and how that impacts. And I guess, especially as we talked earlier, Khorne has struggled a little bit in turn one battle tactics. So how
Yep.
do you work around that? And do you need to add that second extra unit of Furies? Question mark. And for those who are relying on Khorne, for example, like how are you going to handle that?
Yeah, I'm
The
also like for Khorne, I guess I'm considering potentially dropping the Wrath Axe and having Valkia instead of the little hero, because that helps a lot for led into the Maelstrom. Having a very fast and quite tanky little hero could be quite good, especially like if you make her like a double move with the like move in the hero phase. Like that's something I'm considering. I just need a bit more playtesting to see if it's worth losing the axe.
And we are literally recording within 24 hours of the Battlescroll dropping. So there's obviously going to be testing and evolution. But I love the thought. And it's like, I haven't thought about Valkyria for a long time. Maybe instead of just like tweaking my list, let's actually go to the drawing board and see who can help me score that first battle tactic, or what do I need to do in order to set up a different sequence. This is the exciting part of the Battlescroll. The other list is a Seraphon, the Sylvaneth list that you play Sylvaneth. So what's the evolution, I guess, of your thinking here?
So that list was just not legal before the Battlescroll because the war song was 300 points. So I had the same list, but with allied Etherwings instead of Scythe Wild Hunt. Quite good for battle tactic, quite mobile, but I feel like Scythe Wild Hunt bring a little more. You get an extra unbind, especially since your war song is usually outside of madding range because you're trying to keep him in the back. So having that unit more in the front can be good. The War Scroll spell is great. Also gives you access to, I don't have it here, but to a second 7F spell. So like they will have Verger's Harmony to revive some units. And then this list is in the end very similar to a list I played in the last GHB. Works almost the same, except that I had a Trilord Ancient instead of Berthanos, and Berthanos is just like a straight upgrade. Like he's great. He slaps, especially if you can have him supported by an Archrev. +1 attack, +1 to wound, +1 to hit with the subfaction. Like by himself, he can do a lot of damage. You have the Lancers that are also very mobile, especially with run and charge. So turn one, if you don't get your hive off and the opponent is far, you can either send Berthanos or the Lancers to do some damage, and then later in the game, the Scythe can get in. And it just plays like your classic melee Sylvaneth builds, where you will slowly take apart the opponent army while you don't lose too much. You're down on primaries at the beginning of the game, but you're just hoping that you do enough damage to catch back at the end. That's why battle tactics and gun strat are super important. You cannot afford to drop one. And that's why I love the War Song with Vesper Gem. It gives you auto Magic Dome. You cannot fail it. It's really hard to get denied Spellcasting Savant as a Grand Strat. And then with Sylvaneth and the mobility you have, you can usually score your other 5 battle tactics. So you will very rarely have big wins with that. That's why it's really hard to play, especially for a GT, like for 5 games. It will always be close games. But you have the options, and I think that's a quite decent list.
I like it, and you haven't really spammed anything here. You've got 1 unit of Kernot Hunters, you've got 1 unit of Lancers, you've got a rule mix here. So I dig where you're going with this. Anything else you want to say about the Battlescroll? I think we've done a pretty good job going through it. Yes, we could go into a lot of depth by the impacts, and I think you all know, folks, that I'll probably go and talk to some players about some of the bigger impact Battlescrolls. So obviously, what does this mean to Seraphon? What does this mean to Khorne? What does this mean to certain ones that probably got Fire Slayers? Is this the time to revisit Fire Slayers? That's what's going to come up on the channel. But do you have anyone you want to say hello to, or any shout outs or anything that to bring this episode home?
Well, I guess shout out to my teammates. Like my teammates Ozzy, I played 24 games with him, leading to LVO, and that definitely helped me to get a top 8. And the rest of the team, only great people. And I guess shout out to Ridge from Season of War that I will actually see next week. So maybe, who knows, maybe I will be on Season of War. I will. And so you can see me play my Khorne list that I just shared earlier
Awesome.
on Season of War. I don't know when the battle report will be up, but I'll be playing against Ridge, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Fantastic. That's awesome. And highly recommend, if you, I'm sure people who are watching this are already subscribed, but if you haven't, go subscribe to Season of War. Great people, wonderful gamers, do incredible battle reports, and definitely top shelf battle reports. So I can't wait to see Fabien, you versus Ridge. I hope you crush him, and you bring skulls to the altar of Khorne, and maybe your bounty will get us a new Valkyr model. That's all I ask for. If we get a new Valkyr model, I'm probably a Khorne player. Just know that. I'm just waiting for Valkyr. Give me a new Valkyr, and I'm signed up.
Yeah, that would be great.
Please, please, Dawnbringer 6 Valkyr. Give me like Dawnbringer 6 Valkyr, and I'm all in. But Fabien, you're an absolute gem. I hope people found value in this discussion. Let me know in the comments section how your army has been impacted, and do you agree or disagree with what we've said? Is there something that maybe we've overlooked? Again, we're 24 hours with the new Battlescroll, so there's a lot of testing, a lot of theorying, and I'm sure there's a lot of things we've missed, and maybe some surprises that, or maybe some things we've overassumed, you know, with some of the changes, whether it's the battle plan, whether it's the new battle tactic, or some points adjustment. Let us know in the comments. Do the YouTube thing and make a sacrifice to the algorithm gods. All right, Fabien, time to go. Have a great night. Hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing all your lists. And if you want to talk lists, come over to my Discord and show me your lists. All right, bye everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Fabien. Bye.
Thanks for hanging around until the end. I hope you enjoyed that video and you walked away with a few new ideas. Now, if you did, I would love it if you pressed like on the video, as well as left me a comment with your thoughts. The conversation will continue over on Discord, and the link is down below in the episode description. I also want to give a massive shout out to the AOS Coach patrons and YouTube members who are supporting the channel and the growth that you're seeing here. So cheers, you are all bloody legends. And until next time, don't roll a double one on a spellcast.